Those who arrive in compact cars are often considered budget-conscious customers. On my mother's 60th birthday, I wanted to make it special by taking her and my daughter to a renowned upscale restaurant that is notoriously difficult to book. However, our evening took an unexpected turn. The restaurant manager began making derogatory remarks, mocking us and insinuating that we were out of place. My mother, clearly upset, suggested we leave, but the manager just smirked. To her surprise, the other diners stood up in unison, glaring at the manager in disapproval. I'm Rebecca Miller, 28 years old, a single mother with a 3-year-old daughter. After separating from my husband due to differing values, I decided to raise my daughter alone. When I returned home to share the news, my mother welcomed us with open arms. Overwhelmed, I broke down in tears. Seeing my distress, my mother offered for us to move in with her. She had been living alone since my father passed away a few years ago, and she was delighted at the idea of having us. With my mother's 60th birthday approaching, I wanted to do something extraordinary. I managed to secure a reservation at the coveted restaurant, known for being booked years in advance. I was prepared for a long wait, but a cancellation allowed us to get a reservation for her birthday month. My mother was thrilled when I told her. Her reaction made all the effort worthwhile. The day of the reservation arrived, and I drove my mother and daughter to the restaurant, never anticipating any problems. Miss Rebecca Miller, is it? Please come this way, said the host. The grand entrance was fitting for such an exclusive venue, and my mother and I were in awe of the opulent decor while my daughter remained her usual cheerful self. Seeing my mother's delight, I felt confident that the evening would be perfect. After a brief wait, our appetizer arrived, a beautifully presented salad. Both my mother and I were excited, especially since the restaurant had a special menu for my daughter, a thoughtful touch. As we enjoyed our meal, my mother began recognizing some of the patrons. I know that person, she said, pointing out several celebrities she had seen on TV. I glanced around, noticing the same faces and feeling a part of this glamorous world. Everyone seemed to be enjoying my mother's and daughter's presence, and the approving looks from fellow diners reassured me about bringing my young child. The appetizers were finished, and the first main course was served, its elegant presentation adding to the evening's splendor. Instinctively, I pulled out my phone and took a photo. Almost immediately, a different staff member approached us. His displeased expression caught me off guard. "Excuse me, could you please refrain from taking photos?" he asked curtly. I apologized, trying to explain. I just wanted to capture the moment. His next words were laced with disdain. "This is typical of people like you. Why are you even here? Who let you in?" His muttered comment was clearly audible, making me feel deeply uncomfortable. I tried to hide my discomfort, looking down to avoid dampening my mother's mood. However, my daughter's sudden crying brought me back to the moment. She had dropped her bread on the floor, and her cries echoed in the quiet restaurant. People began to turn their attention toward us, and I panicked, attempting to calm her down, but the more frantic I became, the less effective my efforts were. The rude staff member from earlier approached again. "Ma'am, you're disturbing the other patrons with all this noise." "I'm so sorry," I said. "I'll calm her down right away." "You really shouldn't bring children to places like this," he retorted, his sarcasm unmistakable. My mother overheard this time. Clearly irritated, my mother spoke softly but firmly. "It's your attitude that's truly ruining the reputation of this establishment." Her comment only seemed to fuel his hostility. "This isn't a place for children, you know. If you continue to cause a scene, I might have to call security." His arrogance and rudeness made both my mother and me furious, but we knew that reacting with anger would only worsen the situation. Taking a deep breath, I tried to stay composed, determined not to let him see how deeply his behavior had affected us. I could hear my mother murmuring a similar apology. "I truly apologize for the disturbance. My daughter has stopped crying. Can we have a moment?" The staff member, arms crossed, stared at us, clearly waiting for us to make the next move. "Could you calm down? You're inconveniencing the other guests," he said sharply. To distract my daughter, I offered her some bread from my plate. She stopped crying and began eating happily. I let out a sigh of relief, shared a glance with my mom, and attempted another apology to the staff member before taking my seat, but he seemed even more agitated. "Do you even understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you to leave. This restaurant is too upscale for you." But my daughter has calmed down now, I protested. She might cry again. But we informed the restaurant about her when we made the reservation. So what? He snapped. This is exactly why people like you have such low standards. If you keep this up, I'll call the manager. The staff members stormed off towards the staff room, leaving my mother and me stunned. We couldn't believe how rude he was. Didn't he realize that his attitude was the real issue here? Despite it being a special celebration for my mother's 60th birthday, the experience was soured. Although I had caused a scene, I didn't want to escalate the situation further. As we considered our next steps, we exchanged worried looks, and soon the staff member returned with a man who appeared to be the manager. I couldn't help but gasp when I saw the manager. It was Daniel Thompson, a classmate from middle school. "Is that you, Rebecca?" Daniel recognized me instantly. The staff member, surprised, asked Daniel, "Do you know her?" A wave of relief washed over me. Daniel had always been earnest and cheerful in school, although he was a bit reserved and usually hung out with a smaller circle compared to my diverse group. I remembered him primarily because he had once confessed his feelings for me. At the time, I was in a relationship, so I had declined. Despite that, we still kept in touch a few times. I hoped that Daniel might address the staff member's rude behavior, but instead, he greeted me with a disheartening comment. "Oh, Rebecca, I didn't expect to see you here. Are you sure you belong in a place like this?" "What do you mean?" I asked, puzzled. "I heard the rumor," Daniel said, his tone dismissive. "You're a single mom now, right? People say single moms are usually struggling financially. This is a high-end restaurant. It would be a problem if you couldn't pay later." Daniel's mocking smile and unrestrained scrutiny were shocking. I remembered him as a kind person back in school, but he seemed to have changed significantly. "How can you say that?" I retorted. "I made a reservation and paid in advance." "You've always been so headstrong," Daniel said with a smirk. "Maybe that's why your husband left you. You need to know how to flatter people sometimes." "What does that have to do with anything?" I asked, bewildered. Daniel continued, his disdain evident. "Isn't that your compact car outside?" "So what if it is?" I replied, my irritation growing. Daniel chuckled derisively. "People who drive compact cars don't belong here. Didn't you notice when you parked? No one else drives a compact car. Everyone else has a Mercedes or something similar. Aren't you embarrassed to be so out of place?" His contempt was palpable. It was as if the Daniel I once knew was long gone. He assessed us with disdain and said, "You look downright poor. You clearly don't fit in here. If you understand the staff's concerns, why don't you just leave?" I felt my irritation rise as I was treated like we were causing trouble and refusing to leave. We had made a reservation and paid in advance. We had every right to dine there. I couldn't believe that Daniel, who used to be so kind, would now judge people based on their appearance. After everything he said, there was no reason for my mother and me to stay. The food might have been excellent, but we didn't want to be associated with a restaurant that had such disrespectful staff and a manager who had clearly changed. "Daniel, you've really changed. If this is how it's going to be, we're leaving," I said firmly. He seemed oddly satisfied. "I'm living the dream now," he said with a smirk. "I'm definitely better off than you. Don't think you can just call me by my first name." "It's a shame how much you've changed," I replied. Daniel's smirk widened. "That's because you rejected me back then. Even though you're not that pretty, I'm happier now. Isn't it refreshing?" He cheerfully high-fived a nearby staff member, and they both laughed. It was clear that Daniel still held a grudge from all those years ago. Understanding that made his awful attitude a little more comprehensible to me. "Say whatever you want," I said. "I'm certainly happier than someone who still harbors a grudge from the past. I have a wonderful daughter and a caring mother." Turning to my mom, I added, "Let's go." When I responded confidently, Daniel seemed to take pleasure in my irritation. He probably thought I was just being a sore loser. It frustrated me to no end, but shouting at him wouldn't change anything. I never imagined that a classmate could become so different. This day was supposed to end on a high note, but with these thoughts weighing on me, I picked up my daughter and glanced at my mom. She was clearly enraged and abruptly stood up. "You've made a mockery of my daughter. We don't want anything to do with a place like this. As you said, we're leaving," she declared loudly. Her words reverberated throughout the restaurant, and to our surprise, all the diners who had been enjoying their meals began to stand up and prepare to leave. I was stunned, unable to grasp what was happening. "Wait, what's going on?" I called out, bewildered. I'm sorry for the disturbance. We'll handle these rude customers right away, Daniel said, trying desperately to prevent the diners from leaving. But his efforts were met with cold stares from every direction. Daniel was visibly flustered, not understanding the sudden turn of events. Two elderly men approached Daniel, shouting, "How dare you treat Mrs. Miller like that? We've been loyal customers for years, but will never return." Following the lead of the two men, the other diners began to voice their discontent and scold Daniel. They expressed their gratitude to my mother, who was still holding my daughter. It was clear that Daniel's behavior had backfired spectacularly. The entire restaurant was now united in their support of us. I stood there, wide-eyed, observing the extraordinary scene unfolding before me. The people who were reprimanding Daniel were recognizable celebrities, politicians, and other visibly affluent individuals. I had no idea why they seemed to feel a sense of loyalty to my mother. What's going on here? I wondered aloud, confused. Daniel's face turned ashen as he tried desperately to calm everyone down. The staff member beside him also appeared to be losing color. I looked at my mom with a puzzled expression, and she revealed an astonishing truth. All these people used to be regular customers of mine when I was a traditional sweets maker. What? I was as shocked as Daniel. I knew my mom had been a sweets maker, but I had no idea she had catered to such high-profile clients. One of the celebrities nearby spoke up. Mrs. Miller's sweets were the best in the country. My mom blushed at the compliment and replied modestly, "I may not be a professional craftsman anymore, but thanks to all of you, I became quite skilled. I'm truly grateful. In that sense, a customer is indeed a god." Hearing this, I felt a profound admiration for my mother. Daniel looked completely stunned, holding his breath and visibly tense. My mom approached the astonished Daniel and said calmly, "You need to learn to cherish your customers. This restaurant is important to you, isn't it?" At her words, Daniel's frustration boiled over, and he growled in response. Daniel was clearly on the defensive, trying to maintain a facade of confidence despite the situation. "Hey, stop this. What's with the customer is God nonsense? That's an outdated way of thinking and isn't popular anymore." His frustrated shout, which could be interpreted as a cry of anguish, reverberated through the room. My mom remained unperturbed by his outburst. "You think caring for the customer is just a fleeting trend?" she asked calmly. Daniel struggled to respond, clearly intimidated by my mother's firm stance. Still, he stubbornly refused to accept her perspective. "We're the ones providing the food," he argued. "We're more important than the customers. This is absurd. I am important. If your daughter Rebecca hadn't rejected me, I wouldn't have treated you this way. Apologize to me right now, and maybe I'll consider making Rebecca my partner. It could be a way out of your struggling life, don't you think?" He directed this last part at me, and I was utterly repulsed. I sighed deeply and said, "I'm sorry, but honestly, I can't deal with you right now." As I dismissed him and lowered my head, chuckles erupted from the crowd. Daniel's face flushed bright red. Despite how clear my response was, Daniel, with his misplaced confidence, seemed to be unprepared for another rejection. "Why not? Have money, you know. You don't want to be looked down upon, do you? And isn't it embarrassing to be a single mother? Women like you probably can't remarry, so I'm offering to take you." "It's none of your business," I said firmly. "Just because you have money doesn't guarantee happiness." I brushed him off, and his face turned even redder. I couldn't help but wonder if money was behind Daniel's transformation. They say that money can lead to one's downfall, but seeing it firsthand was a new experience for me. "How dare a single mother like you talk back to me?" Daniel's words no longer had any impact. In fact, after hearing my mother's dignified response, Daniel seemed pitiful. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed from the back of the restaurant, startling everyone. We all turned to find the source. A middle-aged man appeared, and Daniel's expression instantly shifted to one of unease. "Daniel, what on earth is going on here?" the man demanded. "Why is Dad here?" Daniel stammered. "I heard Mrs. Miller and her family were dining here, so I came to greet them," his father said, surveying the commotion. "What's with all this noise?" It became clear that the man was Daniel's father. I hadn't seen him since middle school, but he appeared very stern and dignified. Earlier, one of the staff had mentioned something about the boss, so it seemed this man must be the restaurant's owner. "Gave you the manager position after hearing you lost your job, but the business has only been declining. Now I understand why," his father said, disappointment evident. What? Daniel gasped. Yes, I arrived a bit earlier, his father continued. I overheard the commotion and saw you insulting Mrs. Miller's family. With all the arrogant things you've been saying, do you even realize how wonderful a person Mrs. Miller is? As the boss interrogated him, Daniel's face grew pale, and he began to sweat profusely. What? This old hag is supposed to be someone special? Daniel sneered. Watch your mouth, his father snapped back. Mrs. Miller helped fund the opening of this restaurant. What? This old lady has that kind of money. Daniel scoffed. Of course, his father replied sharply. Mrs. Miller's husband owned a famous traditional candy store, and she herself worked tirelessly in the demanding world of candy making. She's experienced far more in life than you ever will. I wish I could distill her wisdom and let you experience just a fraction of it. With that, the owner turned to face us. I'm deeply sorry for the trouble my foolish son has caused. Daniel, apologize now. Why should I? Daniel protested. I'm the manager of this upscale restaurant. Didn't you trust my abilities enough to leave me in charge? This is my place, and I make the rules. Enough with your arrogance, the owner cut him off. What have I done, making someone like you the manager? I'm so disappointed in you. You're never setting foot in this place again. What? Daniel's jaw dropped in shock. In a panic, he started apologizing to his father, but the owner's decision was resolute. You're apologizing to the wrong person, his father said firmly. You should be apologizing to Mrs. Miller and her family. Please, I'm so sorry, Daniel begged. I finally made it, and I don't want to lose it all over something like this. Still going on about that. The owner shook his head in disbelief. His face was a picture of shock. No one would want to discover their child was so arrogant and disrespectful. If my own daughter had acted this way, I would have made the same decision as the owner. We all glared at Daniel, who was now visibly distressed. The owner began to recount how Daniel had ended up working at the restaurant. Daniel used to work at a renowned hotel, he explained, but he racked up massive debts from gambling. The chaos caused by debt collectors led to his firing. Lost and desperate, Daniel returned home and begged me for a job. At the time, I had been offered a promotion to CEO of the company. The story painted a clear picture of Daniel's downfall and reinforced the gravity of his behavior. So, Daniel's father decided to leave the upscale restaurant to his son and manage several other establishments in the same chain. At first, Daniel worked diligently, and the owner felt reassured. However, sales at Daniel's restaurant soon began to plummet. The owner had been trying to understand the cause of the decline for some time. Complaints about Daniel's poor attitude from the staff kept surfacing, but without concrete evidence, he wanted to believe in his son's abilities. Today, his hope had turned to certainty. It's truly a shame, the owner said, looking at Daniel with deep disappointment. Daniel, who looked as though he had been struck by lightning, began to apologize frantically. Dad, please forgive me. I've been trying my best, haven't I? Rebecca, please say something to my dad for me. What exactly should I say? I asked, my voice cold. We were classmates, remember? For old time's sake. You're really something, I continued. You truly are the worst. Daniel's face fell further as he absorbed the disdain in my words. Both my mother and I sighed, taken aback by the turn of events. After the confrontation, Daniel was dismissed from his position as manager and disowned by his father, leaving him without a place to go. It later came to light that Daniel had accumulated new, hidden debts. Despite his decent salary, he had squandered most of it on gambling and mistreated his staff daily. He had a particular favorite among the staff, one who was also a former college junior of Daniel's. This staff member, who had a problematic attitude, was hired on Daniel's orders. Eventually, he was dismissed along with Daniel. With everything lost, Daniel sank further into gambling to escape his troubles, struggling to pay off his debts. His actions had not only ruined my mother's 60th birthday celebration, but also showcased his lack of integrity. To make amends, Daniel's father arranged a party for us at a hotel he owned, offering a free room as an apology. At the party, I made many new friends and realized just how much people cherished my mother. Everyone there had known her from her days as a traditional sweets maker, coming to her shop to buy her confections as gifts. Her enduring connections were a testament to her charm and kindness. I hope to follow in her footsteps and become the kind of mother my daughter looks up to with the same admiration.
The video plays on my phone screen, and I can't stop watching my father's smug face as he accepts his promotion to superintendent. His perfectly pressed suit, that rehearsed humble smile, it makes my stomach turn. 4 years, and he still wears the same navy tie with diagonal stripes, the one Mother bought him for their 20th anniversary. My name is Kendra, and I shouldn't care about any of this anymore. I deleted all my family's social media years ago, but Sophie just had to send me this clip. Thought you should see this, her message read. As if I needed another reminder of the perfect family image they maintain while pretending I don't exist. Is that him? Daniel appears behind me, his hand gentle on my shoulder. You okay? I nod, but my fingers are trembling as I replay the moment where Father thanks his loving family for their support. The camera pans to Mother and Emily in the front row, both wearing matching pearl necklaces. My sister's smile is brittle around the edges. I wonder if anyone else notices. What a performance, I mutter, closing the video. Did you catch how he didn't even mention Tyler? Or me? Just his 2 decades of dedication to family values and education. The words taste bitter in my mouth. Daniel sits beside me on our worn leather couch, the one we bought secondhand when we first moved in together. You don't have to watch this stuff, Ken. It's not good for you. No, I needed to see it. I stand up, pacing our small living room. Through the nursery door, I can hear our son's soft breathing during his afternoon nap. They're hosting this big community celebration next month. Everyone who's anyone in the district will be there. Kendra. Daniel's voice carries that note of concern I've grown familiar with. Whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking it's time. I stop pacing, meeting his worried gaze. Time everyone knew what kind of man William Preston really is. What kind of parents abandon their pregnant teenage daughter? What kind of people hide the existence of their disabled son for 30 years? My phone buzzes. Another message from Sophie. This time, it's a link to the event details, complete with press coverage information. My father's face beams from the promotional banner. His campaign slogan beneath, "Building better futures through family values." They made their choice 4 years ago. Daniel reminds me gently. We've built something good here without them. I look at the family photos on our wall. Genuine moments of joy captured with Daniel, our son, Aunt Evelyn, and Uncle Marcus, the family we chose. But there's this hollow space inside me that won't heal, not while they continue spreading their lies. Tyler called yesterday, I say quietly. He wants to meet again. Says he has something important to tell me about Father. Daniel's expression shifts. He knows about Tyler now. About the half-brother my parents abandoned long before they abandoned me. The secret that could shatter their carefully constructed facade. My phone buzzes one more time. It's Emily. Saw Sophie sent you the video. Please don't do anything stupid. Some things are better left in the past. I delete her message without responding. Emily made her choice when she married Brian, my ex, the one who walked away when I told him I was pregnant. The perfect couple in my parents' perfect world. Whatever you decide, Daniel says, standing to pull me close. I'm with you. Just be sure it's what you really want. Revenge has a way of burning everyone involved. I lean into his embrace, but my mind is already racing with possibilities. The community celebration is exactly 1 month away. Plenty of time to gather evidence, to connect with Tyler, to plan how we'll finally make them face the truth they've buried for so long. They thought they could just erase us, I whisper. But some stories refuse to stay hidden. In the nursery, our son stirs and lets out a small cry. As I move to comfort him, I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror. I see Mother's chin, Father's eyes, and something entirely my own. Determination. Emily's text arrives while I'm feeding my son his breakfast. Coffee at Marcus and Evelyn's cafe? We need to talk. The message sits there, deceptively casual, as if we're still the sisters who used to share everything. I wipe pureed carrots from Jamie's chin, studying his innocent face. He has Daniel's gentle eyes, thank God. Nothing of Brian in him at all. You don't have to go, Daniel says from behind his laptop, where he's working on his latest design project. Emily made her choice when she married him. But I'm already reaching for my phone. Actually, I do. I type quickly. Noon. Don't bring Brian. The cafe is quiet when I arrive, the lunch rush not yet begun. Uncle Marcus spots me first, his expression darkening slightly. He knows what day it is, the anniversary of when they threw me out. She's in the back corner. He says quietly, squeezing my shoulder. Want me to hover nearby? I shake my head. I've got this. Emily sits primly at our usual table, wearing one of Mother's hand-me-down blazers. Her wedding ring catches the light as she stirs her latte, the ring that should have been mine, before Brian decided a pregnant girlfriend wasn't part of his 5-year plan. You look tired, she says by way of greeting. Babies do that. I slide into the seat across from her. What do you want, Em? Mother's worried. She saw you watching Father's speech online, multiple times. Of course she did. Sophie probably told Brian, who told Emily, who told Mother. The perfect information chain. Fascinating how she tracks my online activity but couldn't be bothered to meet her grandson. Emily's perfectly manicured fingers tighten around her cup. You know how it is. Appearances matter more than actual family? I cut in. Yeah, I got that message 4 years ago. A muscle twitches in Emily's jaw. The same tell she had when we were kids, hiding secrets from our parents. There's more at stake than you realize, Ken. Father's position, the family's reputation. What about Tyler's position? The words slip out before I can stop them. Emily goes very still. The color drains from her face, and for a moment I see the sister I used to know. The one who used to sneak into my room late at night, whispering about escape plans we never followed through on. How do you... She swallows hard. Who told you about him? Does it matter? What matters is that I know. About our half-brother, about what they did to him. What they did to me wasn't their first time abandoning family. It wasn't like that, Emily hisses, leaning forward. Tyler needed specialized care. They couldn't handle... Save it. I stand up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. You know what's funny? I actually came here hoping you'd be different. That maybe you'd finally choose to do the right thing. Ken, please. Emily grabs my wrist. Whatever you're planning for the celebration next month, don't. Some secrets need to stay buried. I look down at her hand, at the ring that symbolizes every betrayal between us. Like how you and Brian were seeing each other behind my back months before I got pregnant. That kind of secret? She releases me as if burned. The truth hangs between us, finally spoken after 4 years. I didn't... She starts, but can't finish. Didn't what? Mean to hurt me? That's the problem with our family, Em. Nobody ever means to hurt anyone. They just do what's best for appearances, for reputation, for Father's precious career. Uncle Marcus appears with a fresh coffee, his timing perfect. Everything okay here? Fine, Emily says quickly, gathering her designer purse. I should go. Brian's waiting. Of course he is. I watch her retreat, noting how her shoulders hunch slightly. Another tell from our childhood, when she knew she was in the wrong but wouldn't admit it. You okay, kiddo? Marcus asks softly. I pull out my phone, opening the message Tyler sent me last night. A photo of him as a child, hidden away in some specialized facility, while Father built his empire of family values and Mother pretended she'd only ever had 2 perfect daughters. I will be, I say, hitting reply, once everyone knows the truth. Marcus studies me carefully. Your aunt might have some things to tell you, about Tyler, about your parents, when you're ready to hear them. I look up sharply, catching the weight in his words. There's more. There's always more with this family. I'm ready now. Aunt Evelyn's hands shake as she pulls the dusty photo album from the top shelf of her closet. We're sitting in her bedroom, the same room where I slept those first few weeks after being thrown out, crying myself to sleep while cradling my growing belly. Your mother made me swear, she says, settling beside me on the bed. But I can't keep carrying this anymore. The album's leather cover is cracked, its pages yellowed. A hospital bracelet falls out as she opens it. Faded blue, dated 30 years ago. Tyler wasn't born with disabilities, Evelyn says quietly. The accident happened when he was 2. My fingers trace the bracelet. What accident? William was watching him, or supposed to be. She turns a page, revealing a toddler's bright smile. He was on the phone with the school board about a promotion. Tyler fell down the stairs. The room suddenly feels too small, too warm. I stand up, pacing like I do when Jamie's colicky. Father always said Tyler was born that way, that they couldn't handle a special needs child. Your father says a lot of things. Evelyn's voice carries an edge I've never heard before. Martha wanted to keep him, but William, he said it would ruin his career trajectory. A principal with a disabled son? The community would question his competence. My phone buzzes. Another message from Emily. I ignore it. There's more. Evelyn continues, pulling out an envelope. Medical records, payment arrangements to the facility, all in Martha's name, so nothing would trace back to William. Did Emily know? She was only 5 when it happened. They told her Tyler died. Evelyn's hands clench around the envelope. Marcus and we visited him when we could, until William threatened to ruin Marcus's business if we didn't stop. A photo slips from the album. Tyler at maybe 16, in a wheelchair, Evelyn and Marcus on either side of him. His smile is different now, but his eyes, they're father's eyes, like mine. Why tell me this now? Because Tyler contacted us last week. He's planning to attend William's celebration. She meets my gaze steadily. He wants to tell his story. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from an unknown number. We should meet. I have father's old journals. T. The pieces click together. Emily's panic at the cafe, mother's sudden interest in my online activity, father's rushed promotion celebration. They know he's back, I whisper. That's why they're pushing this event so quickly. William's already trying to discredit Tyler, Evelyn confirms, calling him disturbed, unreliable, claims he's just after money. I laugh, but it comes out harsh. Like he claimed I was just being rebellious and irresponsible? Kendra. Evelyn reaches for my hand, but I pull away. No, I'm done with their lies. I grab the envelope of records, my hands steady now. Tyler deserves justice. We both do. My phone lights up with Emily's 3rd message. Mother knows you're at Evelyn's. She found Tyler's letters. Please, Ken, don't do this to the family. The family? I say aloud, my voice rising. What about what they did to us? Evelyn stands, pulling another box from under her bed. There's something else you should see. Letters Martha wrote to Tyler but never sent. And she hesitates. Documents about other children. Before Tyler. My breath catches. What other children? Your father had another family, before Martha. A wife and daughter who disappeared after threatening to expose his abusive behavior. She pulls out a newspaper clipping, dated 25 years ago. The official story was they moved away, but I stare at the grainy photo of a woman who could be Mother's twin, holding a little girl. The article mentions a custody dispute, then nothing. My phone buzzes one final time. Tyler. I'm outside Evelyn's house. Time to talk about what really happened to Sarah and Rebecca Preston. I look at Evelyn, seeing the weight of decades of secrets in her eyes. Who are Sarah and Rebecca? Your father's first wife and daughter. She hands me the newspaper. And if William finds out you know about them, he'll do worse than just disown you. Some secrets are buried deeper than others. Through the window, I see a car pulling up. A man in a wheelchair emerges with help from his caregiver, my half-brother, the living proof of our father's greatest failure. Then it's time to start digging, I say, gathering the evidence of our family's darkest truths. All of it. Daniel finds me at the kitchen table at 3 a.m, surrounded by father's old journals and Tyler's medical records. The coffee's long gone cold, but my hands won't stop shaking anyway. Jamie's going to be up in a few hours. He says softly, but I barely hear him. Listen to this, I say, pushing a journal entry toward him. March 15th, 1992. Sarah threatened to go public today. Claims she has proof. She doesn't understand what's at stake. My career, my future. Some sacrifices are necessary. I flip through more pages. 2 weeks later, they disappeared. Daniel sits beside me, his designer's eyes scanning the scattered papers. Have you told Tyler about this? He's the one who found the journals, in a storage unit registered to Mother. I run my fingers over the faded ink. Father's first wife and daughter didn't just move away. They vanished. No forwarding address, no school records, nothing. My phone lights up. Emily again. 17 missed calls since yesterday. She knows something. I mutter. Emily was 5 when Tyler had his accident, but she remembers more than she's saying. Ken. Daniel hesitates, choosing his words carefully. What exactly are you planning to do with all this? Before I can answer, another text arrives. From Brian, of all people. Emily's not eating, not sleeping. Whatever you're planning, please stop. I laugh, the sound harsh in our quiet kitchen. Now he cares about someone's well-being? You need to be careful, Daniel says, gathering the scattered papers. These accusations, if they're true, my father's not just a manipulative bastard who abandoned his children. He's... The word sticks in my throat. A knock at the door makes us both jump. It's 4 a.m. No one should be here. Daniel moves toward the door while I quickly shove the papers into a folder. Sophie? Daniel's voice carries his surprise. She bursts in, still wearing her work clothes from the late shift at the hospital. You need to see this. She thrusts her phone at me. It just came across my desk. A Jane Doe from 92. Cold case, recently reopened. My hands go numb as I stare at the photo. A woman in her 30s, found in a ravine 2 counties over. No identification. Cause of death. Inconclusive. Look at her hands, Sophie whispers. The woman's right hand bears a distinctive ring, a silver band with a unique pattern. I've seen that ring before, in the old photos Evelyn showed me. Sarah Preston's wedding ring. There's more, Sophie continues. The detective who reopened the case? He received an anonymous tip last week, right after your father's promotion was announced. Jamie's cry pierces the silence, and I realize I'm gripping the phone so hard my knuckles have gone white. Daniel goes to check on our son, leaving me with Sophie and this horrible revelation. Tyler, I breathe. He must have known. My phone buzzes again. Mother this time. We need to talk. About Sarah. About what really happened that night. The room spins slightly. All my plans for exposing Father's hypocrisy at his celebration suddenly seem small, childish even. This isn't about ruined reputations anymore. This is about... Kendra? Sophie touches my arm. What are you going to do? I look at the scattered evidence of my father's crimes. The journals, the medical records, the photos of a dead woman wearing my father's first wife's ring. The celebration is in 3 weeks. Every important person in the district will be there, watching Father accept his accolades for being an upstanding pillar of the community. I'm going to need your help, I tell Sophie. Both of you. This isn't just about revenge anymore. Daniel returns with Jamie, our son's presence a stark reminder of what's at stake. One wrong move, and history might repeat itself. Father's already proven what he's capable of when his reputation is threatened. We should call the police, Daniel suggests, but I shake my head. Not yet. First, we need to find Rebecca, Sarah's daughter. If she's still alive, she's the key to everything. I look at the photo of the Jane Doe one more time. And Emily. Emily knows something. She has to. My phone lights up with one final message. Tyler. Found Rebecca. She's been closer than you think. Meet tomorrow? I stare at the text, my heart pounding. Somewhere in the darkness, a car door slams and headlights sweep across our kitchen window. I freeze, wondering if Father already knows what we've discovered. The game has changed. This isn't about family shame anymore. It's about justice. And maybe, just maybe, preventing another tragedy before history repeats itself. The cafe's security cameras catch everything. On Sophie's laptop screen, I watch Emily slip through the back door at midnight, passing a thick envelope to a man whose face stays hidden in shadow. 3 nights before Father's celebration. "Play it again," Tyler says from beside me, his wheelchair positioned at the perfect angle to see the screen. We've been holed up in Sophie's apartment for hours, reviewing footage Marcus secretly installed after Emily's suspicious visits. The timestamp matches when Father made that call to the detective, Sophie points out, rewinding the video. The one who suddenly dropped the reopened investigation into Sarah's case. My fingers drum against the table, muscle memory from years of anxiety under Father's roof. Emily's always been their perfect messenger. Clean hands, spotless reputation. Unlike some of us, Tyler says with a bitter smile, gesturing to himself. The door opens and Daniel enters with takeout bags. "Jamie's down for his nap at your aunt's," he tells me, but his eyes linger on the scattered evidence across Sophie's dining table. News clippings, medical records, Father's journals, a paper trail of destroyed lives. My phone buzzes. "Mother, Emily told us everything. About the cameras, about Tyler. Please, sweetheart, let's discuss this privately. Family matters should stay within the family." "Family matters," I echo, the words tasting like ash. Like Sarah's murder was a family matter? Tyler's hand finds mine, squeezing gently. "We're close, Ken. The celebration's the perfect moment. Everyone who matters will be there, watching their perfect superintendent accept his accolades." While wearing the watch he took from Sarah's body, Sophie adds, pulling up another photo. The distinctive gold timepiece gleams on Father's wrist in every public appearance since 1992. My phone buzzes again. Emily this time. "They know about Rebecca. She's not safe anymore." The room tilts slightly. "What does she mean they know about Rebecca?" Daniel asks, but I'm already dialing Aunt Evelyn's number. No answer. "Marcus said Emily's been asking about old storage units," Sophie says quietly. "One's registered to your mother." The pieces click together with horrifying clarity. "She's not just their messenger anymore," I whisper. "She's their cleaner, like Mother was for Father after Sarah." Tyler's wheelchair scrapes against the floor as he turns to face me fully. "There's something I haven't told you," he says, his voice tight. "About Rebecca. About why I really came back." But before he can continue, Sophie's laptop pings with an alert. New security footage, live from the cafe. Emily again, but this time she's not alone. A woman stands with her, their bodies tense in conversation. The woman's face is partially hidden, but I recognize the gesture she makes. The same nervous hair twist I do when stressed. "Rebecca," Tyler breathes. My phone lights up with a final message from Father. "The celebration begins at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Your sister tells me you've been quite busy. Remember, Kendra, everything I've done has been to protect this family. Don't make me protect it from you too." Daniel moves behind me, his hand warm on my shoulder. "We should call the police." "With what evidence?" Sophie counters. "Everything we have is circumstantial. And if Emily's warning about Rebecca is true, we need to move now," Tyler says firmly, "before they can hide her again. Or worse." I stare at the footage, at Emily and Rebecca locked in their tense exchange. My perfect sister, Father's loyal soldier, standing face to face with the daughter he erased 30 years ago. The celebration's elaborate plans mock us from a browser tab. Speeches, awards, community leaders gathered to honor William Preston's legacy of family values and educational excellence. "No," I say, standing abruptly. "We're done hiding in the shadows. They want to keep this in the family?" I grab Father's journal, the one detailing Sarah's final days. "Then let's make it a proper family reunion." "Kendra," Daniel starts, but I cut him off. "Call Marcus. Tell him to get Aunt Evelyn somewhere safe. Sophie, keep monitoring those cameras. And Tyler." I meet my brother's eyes, seeing my own determination reflected back. It's time to tell me everything about Rebecca. No more secrets. My phone buzzes one last time. An unknown number. Hello, little sister. We should talk before tomorrow. About father, about Sarah, about what really happens to people who threaten the Preston family name. The message is signed simply, R. The game has changed. Tomorrow's celebration won't just expose father's hypocrisy. It'll either end his reign of terror or add more names to his list of family casualties. And I'm done being afraid of making his precious list. The celebration hall gleams with false promises. Father stands at the podium, his superintendent's medal catching the light as he delivers his speech about family values and educational excellence. Mother and Emily sit in the front row. Perfect posture, perfect smiles, perfect lies. I clutch Tyler's evidence folder backstage, waiting for my cue. Daniel's text flashes on my phone. Police are here, ready when you are. But something's wrong. Emily's chair is empty now. And Rebecca hasn't answered since our meeting last night. Ladies and gentlemen, Father's voice booms through the speakers. Family isn't just about blood, it's about choices. My phone buzzes again. Unknown number. Check the basement storage room. Now. I shouldn't go alone. Should wait for Daniel, for Sophie, for the police. But my feet are already moving, carrying me down the service stairs. The basement lights flicker, casting shadows that remind me of childhood hiding places. The storage room door is ajar. Inside, Emily stands over an open filing cabinet, feeding documents into a portable shredder. You're too late, she says without turning around. Mother's already moved Rebecca, just like they moved Tyler all those years ago. Where is she? Safe. Safer than Sarah was, anyway. Emily's hands pause on a familiar-looking journal. Did you really think Father wouldn't have contingency plans? That he'd let you ruin everything he's built? Footsteps behind me. Mother's voice, soft and deadly. Oh, sweetheart, you should have stayed away. I spin around. Mother holds something in her hand. Sarah's watch. The twin to the one Father wears. The one missing from the evidence photos. Rebecca was never going to help you, Mother continues. She's been working with us for years. Who do you think kept Tyler's location secret? Who do you think made sure Sarah's case stayed cold? The realization hits like a physical blow. She's not Father's victim. She's his accomplice. She's family, Emily corrects, closing the now empty cabinet. The kind that understands what loyalty means. Upstairs, applause erupts as Father concludes his speech. Through the ceiling, I hear him introducing the next speaker, Rebecca herself, his surprise guest of honor. A touching story of reconciliation, Mother says, her smile sharp as broken glass. The long-lost daughter returning to support her father's legacy, much more compelling than your bitter accusations. My phone is dead. The evidence folder feels impossibly heavy. Tyler. I start, but Emily laughs. Had an unfortunate accident on his way here. Nothing fatal, just delayed. Indefinitely. The basement door clicks shut. Brian's voice carries through. All clear up here, sir. Ready when you are. Father's footsteps descend the stairs, each step echoing like a judge's gavel. He appears in the doorway, superintendent's medal gleaming. Sarah's watch on his wrist matching the one in Mother's hand. I tried to protect you from this, Kendra, he says, his voice carrying that familiar disappointment. Tried to teach you about family loyalty, but you're just like Sarah, too stubborn to understand the greater good. The greater good? My voice cracks. You killed her. She killed herself, Mother corrects smoothly, just like you're about to do. The guilt of false accusations, the shame of trying to ruin your father's special day. The note's already in your handwriting. Emily's quite good at that. The shredder whirs one final time, destroying the last of Tyler's evidence. Above us, Rebecca's voice carries through the speakers, telling a heartwarming story of forgiveness and family redemption. Father steps closer, his shadow falling over me like it did when I was small. The question is, Kendra, will you finally make the right choice? For your son's sake? The basement feels smaller suddenly, the walls closing in. Mother holds out a glass of water, 2 white pills nestled in her other palm. Emily watches with that perfect practice smile. Through the ceiling, applause thunders as Rebecca concludes her speech about the power of family bonds. My phone stays dark. Daniel doesn't come. Sophie doesn't come. The police don't come. The Preston family takes care of its own. Father's watch catches the light again. Sarah's last possession, worn like a trophy. In Mother's hand, its twin gleams with accusation. And somewhere above, Rebecca, the daughter who chose loyalty over justice, continues to sell their perfect lie to a crowd eager to believe in happy endings. Come now, sweetheart, Mother says softly, stepping forward with the pills. It's time to make things right. The basement lights flicker as Mother holds out the pills. Behind her, Father's shadow looms larger than life. But something catches my eye. A reflection in the watch on his wrist. A tiny red light, blinking steadily. Sophie's wireless camera, still transmitting. I take the glass of water, hand trembling. Before I do this, I want to know one thing. My voice breaks perfectly, just like Emily taught me when we were kids, practicing how to cry on command. Did Sarah beg? Father's composure cracks just slightly. She made her choice. Like Rebecca made hers? I lift the glass. To help you hide everything? Rebecca understood what family means. Mother says smoothly. What loyalty means. A noise upstairs. Footsteps, then Rebecca's voice cutting through the speakers. What loyalty meant was watching my mother die, standing guard while William Preston buried her in that ravine. I was 7 years old. Father lunges for the basement door, but it's already locked from the outside. Emily's perfect mask shatters as she realizes what's happening. You didn't actually think I'd trust you again, did you, Em? My hands steady now, I set down the untouched glass. Not after Brian. Not after Tyler. Through the ceiling, Rebecca continues, her voice carrying to every corner of the celebration hall. I played my part. The prodigal daughter returned to support her father's legacy. But every word, every meeting, every confession, it's all been recorded. Mother's hand shoots out, but I'm faster. The watch slips from her grasp, clattering across the floor. Tyler's accident wasn't an accident, I say, loud enough for Sophie's camera to catch. Was it, Father? You ungrateful... He starts forward, but freezes at the sound of police sirens. The thing about perfect families, I continue, backing toward the corner where the camera's hidden, is that they keep such detailed records. Mother's charitable foundation? Fascinating paper trail. All those payments to keep people quiet. Emily makes a small broken sound. The shredder was empty. Everything you thought you destroyed? Already uploaded. Live streaming right now along with this entire conversation. Rebecca's voice cuts through again. My mother wasn't his first victim, but she'll be his last. The basement door bursts open. Daniel leads the charge, followed by police officers. Behind them, I glimpse Tyler in his wheelchair, very much alive and holding a tablet displaying multiple camera feeds. William Preston. An officer steps forward. You're under arrest for the murder of Sarah Preston, and Father moves with unexpected speed, reaching into his jacket. But before anyone can react, Emily throws herself between us. Don't, she screams. Please, Daddy, don't make it worse. The gun clatters to the floor. Emily kicks it away, her perfect posture finally breaking as she sobs. I wanted to believe in you, she whispers. Both of you. But Ken was right. You never loved us. We were just props in your perfect family picture. Mother lunges for the gun, but Rebecca appears in the doorway, Sarah's missing diary in her hands. It's over, Martha. All of it. As the officers move in, Father's facade crumbles completely. Everything I did, he snarls, was for this family's reputation. No, I say quietly, watching them handcuff my parents. Everything you did was for yourself. And now everyone knows exactly who you are. Emily stands frozen between us, torn between her lifetime of loyalty and the truth she can no longer deny. Finally, she turns to me. I'm sorry, she whispers. About Brian, about Tyler, about everything. I was so scared of becoming you that I became them instead. Upstairs, the celebration hall erupts with chaos as Rebecca finishes playing the recordings. 30 years of secrets, exposed in a single night. Daniel reaches for my hand as the officers lead my parents away. Through the basement door, I see Tyler and Sophie dismantling their surveillance setup, while Rebecca clutches her mother's diary, shoulders finally unburdened of its secrets. Was it worth it? Emily asks softly. All of this? I look at the scattered pieces of our family's facade. Mother's mask of perfection shattered. Father's legacy in ruins. The truth finally exposed to the light. Ask me again in 20 years, I reply, watching the last Preston family secret disappear into a police car. When we've all had time to build something real from these ashes. The courtroom empties slowly after the verdict. Life without parole for father, 15 years for mother. Justice served in clean, measured sentences that can't begin to capture 30 years of manipulation and murder. Emily lingers in the back row, clutching Brian's divorce papers. She hasn't signed them yet, but her wedding ring is gone. You did the right thing, Rebecca says, touching my arm. She's wearing Sarah's watch now, recovered from evidence after the trial. Your testimony, it gave others courage to come forward. Through the window, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps, hungry for statements about William Preston's fall from grace. Tyler watches them from his wheelchair, his memoir already climbing bestseller lists. Ken. Emily's voice is small, nothing like the perfect Preston daughter she used to be. There's something else you should know, about Jamie. My heart stutters. What about my son? Father. He was planning to take him. The night of the celebration. He had papers drawn up, claiming you were unfit. That's why She swallows hard. That's why I finally helped you. I couldn't let him destroy another child. The revelation hits like a physical blow. Daniel's hand finds mine, steady and warm. The Preston family legacy, Tyler says bitterly. Always about the children they could control. But Emily isn't finished. There's more. Other families, other children, Mother's Charity Foundation. It wasn't just about hiding their crimes. They were collecting information, building files on anyone who might threaten their image. Rebecca pulls out her phone, showing us a downloaded database. Hundreds of names, dates, secrets. The true extent of my parents' web of control. What do we do with it? Sophie asks quietly. I think of Jamie, safe at home with Aunt Evelyn. Of the childhood Tyler lost, the mother Rebecca mourned, the sister Emily almost became. Of all the other families wounded by my father's obsession with perfection. We burn it, I decide. All of it. Let their secrets die with their power. But, Emily starts, no more revenge, no more exposing people's pain. We end it here. Tyler nods slowly, understanding. Break the cycle. Outside, the reporter's cameras flash as father's lawyer makes a statement. Through the glass, I watch my father's carefully crafted world crumble into headlines and sound bites. I should have protected you. Emily whispers. Both of you. All of us. You can protect others now, Rebecca says. Help us make sure this never happens again. Daniel squeezes my hand. Ready to go home? But before I can answer, a court clerk approaches with an envelope. This was found in William Preston's cell this morning, addressed to Kendra. Inside is a single photograph. Father and mother on their wedding day, young and smiling. But it's what's written on the back that makes my blood freeze. Ask your mother about her sister. Some family secrets even I couldn't control. Emily looks over my shoulder, her face paling. Mother had a sister? The photograph trembles in my hands. Another legacy of lies waiting to be unraveled. Another generation of Preston secrets threatening to surface. But looking at my chosen family, Daniel's unwavering support, Tyler's hard-won strength, Rebecca's quiet resilience, even Emily's stumbling steps toward redemption, I realize something important. It doesn't matter, I say, tearing the photograph in half. Whatever secrets are left, they don't control us anymore. The pieces flutter to the floor like autumn leaves, leaving behind the taste of something that feels almost like freedom. Almost. As we leave the courthouse, Tyler hands me a flash drive. Security footage from Father's office. There's more about Mother's sister, about others. I pocket the drive without looking at it. Some truths can wait. Some battles can be fought another day. For now, Jamie needs his mother. Daniel needs his wife. And I need to learn how to live without the weight of revenge pressing against my ribs. The reporters surge forward, microphones thrust like weapons, asking how it feels to destroy my own family. I think of the torn photograph, of Emily's unsigned divorce papers, of Tyler's best-selling truth, of Rebecca's quiet victory, of all the ways family can break and rebuild and transform. You can't destroy what was never real, I tell them, and walk into the sunlight, leaving the Preston family legacy behind in the shadows where it belongs. Almost.
The knocking started at midnight, 3 sharp raps that made my wine glass shiver on the coffee table. I muted the true crime documentary I'd been half watching and waited, hoping whoever it was would give up and leave. They didn't. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Through the peephole, I saw him, my father, Mark, looking decidedly less polished than the last time I'd seen him 2 years ago. His usually pristine suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled. I'm Kylie, and I hadn't spoken to my father since the day I walked out of his house, leaving behind his manipulative games and his wife Vivian's quiet cruelty. Yet here he was, standing in the hallway of my apartment building at midnight on a Tuesday. "Come on, sweetheart, open up. I know you're in there." His voice carried that familiar, honey-smooth tone that always preceded asking for something. I kept my hand on the chain lock. "It's midnight, Dad. What do you want? Can't a father visit his daughter?" He attempted a warm chuckle that fell flat. "I've had, some difficulties. I need a place to stay for a few days." The wine in my stomach turned sour. "Where's Vivian?" "That's complicated." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from childhood, his tell when he was about to spin a story. "Things haven't been good at home. I lost my job last week, and Vivian, she's not handling it well." I could picture Vivian's reaction perfectly. Her practiced, concerned expression, masking calculation, already plotting how to turn this situation to her advantage. "What happened to all those commission checks? The investment properties?" "Gone." He pressed his forehead against the door. "I made some mistakes, Kylie. Bad investments. I know I don't deserve your help, but I have nowhere else to go." The old me would have opened the door immediately, desperate for any scrap of paternal attention. But I'd spent 2 years in therapy unlearning that instinct. "What about Liam?" I asked, referring to my younger brother. "Can't you stay with him?" "He's still in college, living in the dorms. Please, Kylie, just for a few days while I sort things out." I studied him through the peephole again. The desperate edge in his voice seemed genuine, but then again, it always did. I remembered the last time I'd believed him, when he'd promised to protect me from Vivian's subtle sabotage. Instead, he'd stood by while she systematically undermined every achievement, every relationship I tried to build. "Dad, I can't—" "I'll tell you everything," he interrupted, "about your mother, about what really happened after she died, things you need to know." My hand froze on the chain lock. He'd never voluntarily brought up Mom before. Any mention of her had been met with swift subject changes or convenient phone calls he had to take. "You're trying to manipulate me," I said, but my voice wavered. "No manipulation, just truth. Finally." He pulled something from his pocket, a worn envelope with my mother's handwriting on it. "I should have given you this years ago." My throat tightened. I recognized that envelope. I'd seen Mom writing letters in the weeks before her death, but they'd disappeared afterward. When I'd asked about them, Dad claimed he'd never seen them. "Why now?" I managed to ask. "Because I'm tired of pretending, of lying. Maybe losing everything is what I needed to finally do right by you." My hand moved to the chain lock again, but this time I slid it open. Not because I believed him, I knew better now, but because that envelope held answers I'd spent 15 years searching for, and I was done letting him control access to my own history. As I opened the door, the look of relief on his face almost seemed genuine. Almost. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said, stepping inside. "You won't regret this." But watching him survey my apartment with those calculating eyes, I already did. Whatever game he was playing, whatever crisis had driven him to my door, I had just invited it in. The question was, could I beat him at it this time? The envelope sat unopened on my kitchen counter all night, a cream-colored accusation. Dad had passed out on my couch, his soft snores a rhythm I remembered from childhood road trips. Back when Mom was still alive and everything made sense. I touched the edge of the envelope, tracing Mum's handwriting. The paper felt delicate, like it might crumble under my fingers. Just like every good memory I had of her, seemed to crumble under the weight of what came after. My phone buzzed, a text from Liam. "Dad's with you? Vivian's going nuclear." Before I could respond, another message popped up. "She's saying he stole money from their joint account. A lot of money." The coffee I was drinking turned bitter in my mouth. Of course there was more to the story. There always was with Dad. "You should have come to me first." The voice made me jump. Dad stood in the kitchen doorway, his suit even more rumpled after sleeping in it. I would have explained about Vivian. Explain now. I slid Liam's text across the counter. "What money?" He picked up my coffee mug and took a long sip, a habit that used to drive Mom crazy. "It was my money too. I earned it. Vivian she changed after we got married, started controlling everything. The accounts, the house, even how I dressed." He gestured at his wrinkled suit. "This is the first time I've worn what I wanted in years." "That doesn't answer my question." $200,000, our retirement fund." He set the mug down carefully. I had to take it. She was going to. My phone rang. Vivian's name flashed on the screen. "Don't," Dad said quickly. "She'll try to manipulate you. She always does." Rich coming from him. I answered anyway, putting it on speaker. "Hello?" "Kylie, thank goodness." Vivian's voice dripped with careful concern. "Is your father with you? I'm worried sick. He's not well, sweetheart. He's been having episodes, making wild accusations. The doctors think—" "What doctors?" Dad interrupted loudly. "More lies, Vivian? Is that all you know how to do?" "Mark?" Her tone shifted instantly from concern to sharp. "You need to come home. We can work this out privately, as a family. There's no need to involve the children." "I'm 24, I said, not a child." "Of course not, dear. But you don't understand the situation. Your father, he's been unstable since losing his job, making paranoid claims about me trying to control him. He needs help, not enablement." I watched Dad's face as she spoke. For the first time, I saw something crack in his practiced charm, real fear flickering behind his eyes. "The letter," I said suddenly. "Show me what's in it." Dad's hand tightened around my coffee mug. Not with her listening. "What letter?" Vivian's voice sharpened further. "Mark, what have you done?" He reached for the envelope on the counter, but I snatched it first. The paper was thin enough to see there were several pages inside. "Kylie," Vivian said, "whatever he's shown you, it's part of his delusion. You remember how he got after your mother died? The drinking, the paranoia." "I never drank," Dad shouted. "That was your story. You told everyone I was drunk the night Sarah died, but I wasn't. I would never—" He stopped abruptly, color draining from his face. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. "What about the night Mom died?" I asked quietly. "Nothing," Dad said quickly. Too quickly. Vivian's trying to confuse things like always. But Vivian was laughing now, a cold sound that raised the hair on my arms. "Oh, Mark, still protecting your secrets? Tell her. Tell her where you really were that night. Or should I?" Dad lunged for my phone, but I pulled it away. "What is she talking about?" "Don't," he pleaded. "Not like this." "Read the letter first, please. Your mother explains everything." I looked down at the envelope in my hands, then at my father's desperate face. and finally at Vivian's name glowing on my phone screen. Someone was lying. Maybe everyone was. "I'm hanging up now," I told Vivian, "and Dad's staying here until I read this letter and figure out what's true." "You're making a mistake," Vivian said softly. "But then, you always do choose him, don't you? Just like your mother did. Right up until the end." The line went dead before I could respond, leaving me alone with my father and an envelope full of 15-year-old secrets that suddenly felt like a live bomb in my hands. I found the bank statements in Dad's briefcase while he was in the shower. Not snooping, just looking for answers he wouldn't give me about Mum's letter, which he'd somehow managed to make disappear again. Instead, I found something worse. Transfer records showing systematic withdrawals from accounts I'd never known existed, dating back to the month after Mum died. My hands shook as I took pictures with my phone. The amounts were staggering. Hundreds of thousands moved through shell companies with names like Sunset Ventures and Coastal Holdings. Dad's signature was on everything, but Vivian's elegant scrawl appeared too, authorizing transfers that had slowly drained what must have been Mom's life insurance money. The bathroom door opened. I shoved the papers back, but not before noting one final detail: a recurring transfer to an account holder named Sarah Mitchell. My mother's maiden name. Still here? Dad appeared in fresh clothes, his hair damp. "I thought you'd be at work by now." "Called in sick." I watched his face carefully. "Had some research to do." His expression flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. "About?" "Sarah Mitchell." The color drained from his face. "Where did you hear that name?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me at Riverside Park, 1 p.m. Come alone if you want the truth about your mother." E. "No one," I lied to Dad. "Just something I remembered." He studied me with the same calculating look he used to give difficult clients. "Kylie, there are things about your mother. Complications you don't understand, like the fact she was still alive 6 months after you told us she died." The words hung between us like a live wire. I hadn't meant to reveal I'd seen the transfer dates, but his reaction confirmed everything. He sank into a chair, suddenly looking every bit his age. "How long have you known?" "About 30 seconds, based on your face." My voice sounded strange, distant. "Why, Dad? Why would you—" A key turned in my front door. The spare I'd given Liam for emergencies. My brother burst in, face flushed. "Vivian's gone. She cleared out all the accounts this morning. Everything." Dad jumped up. "That's impossible. She doesn't have access to—" "The Sarah Mitchell account," I interrupted. "Or just the regular ones?" Liam's head snapped between us. "Who's Sarah Mitchell?" "Our mother," I said, just as Dad shouted, "No one." My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "Time's running out. The truth dies with Eleanor if you don't come now." Eleanor. Our grandmother. Dad's mother, who'd disappeared from our lives the same time Mom died. "I have to go," I said, grabbing my keys. Dad grabbed my arm. "Whatever you think you know," I yanked away. "Don't touch me." 15 years, Dad. 15 years of lies about Mom, about money, about everything. And now Vivian's gone with all of it. "Not all," Liam said quietly. "She left this." He held out an envelope, identical to Mom's letter, but newer. Inside was a single photo. Mom, very much alive, sitting in a hospital room. The timestamp showed a date 6 months after her supposed death. Behind her stood Eleanor, and in Mom's arms was a baby. "That's not possible," I whispered. "That baby would have been born after I told you your mother died in a car crash," Dad finished, his voice hollow. "After I married Vivian, after everything changed." My phone buzzed one final time. "Eleanor doesn't have much time left. Neither does Sarah. Choose wisely." I looked at the photo again, at the baby whose age made no mathematical sense unless everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. "I'm going to Riverside Park," I announced, "alone." "Kylie, please!" Dad reached for me again. "You don't understand what you're walking into." But I was already moving, the photo burning in my pocket like a verdict. Behind me, I heard Liam ask, "Dad, why does that baby look exactly like Kylie did at that age?" I closed the door on Dad's response, but not before I saw the guilt in his eyes. Guilt that suggested the answer to Liam's question would shatter whatever remained of our family's carefully constructed lies. The truth was waiting at Riverside Park, and this time, no one would stop me from finding it. Eleanor wasn't at Riverside Park. Instead, I found Sophie waiting on our usual bench, clutching a manila envelope and looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Before you say anything," she started, rising to meet me, "I've been helping your grandmother for months. She made me promise not to tell you until it was time." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Sophie, my best friend, my confidant through every crisis since college, had been keeping secrets about my own family. "Where is she?" My voice came out harder than I'd intended. "Hospital, St. Mary's." Sophie held out the envelope. "She wanted you to see these first, said you needed to understand before you came." Inside were more photos. Mom in different locations, a cabin, a beach, a garden I didn't recognize. All dated after her supposed death. In each one, she looked progressively more ill, but alive. Definitely alive. "There's more," Sophie said quietly. The last photo made my knees buckle. Mum in a hospital bed, holding not one baby but two. Twins. The date stamp matched the photo Vivian had left. "That's impossible," I whispered, but the evidence was right there in my shaking hands. "I don't have a twin." "According to Eleanor, you did." Sophie touched my arm. "Your father and Vivian separated you. Each took one baby." The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the bench for support, memories realigning themselves like pieces of a broken mirror. The strange comments Vivian had made over the years about her real daughter. The way Dad sometimes looked at me with guilt so deep it seemed to age him. My phone buzzed. "Liam, Dad's gone. Left a note saying he's fixing things. What's happening?" Another text followed immediately. "Vivian just posted something weird on social media about reuniting the family. She tagged someone named Claire Mitchell." Claire Mitchell. The name hit me like a thunderbolt. I pulled up social media and found her profile. The resemblance was uncanny, like looking in a mirror, but with different clothes, different hair, different life. "My twin. Eleanor tried to stop them," Sophie continued. "That's why they cut her out of your lives. She threatened to expose everything, so they threatened to take both of you away completely if she didn't stay quiet." "But why?" The question came out as barely more than a whisper. "Why separate us? Money?" Sophie's voice hardened. "Your mother's family fortune. It could only be inherited by her children after they turned 25. If there was only one heir, that person's legal guardian would control the money until then." 25. We were 24 now, less than 6 months away from... My phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello, sister." The voice was mine, but not mine. Familiar yet strange. "I suppose you've figured it out by now. Mother's money, father's lies, Vivian's little game of raising me as her own. Claire." The name felt foreign on my tongue. "We should meet. Compare notes about our separate lives. Share stories about how they manipulated us." Her laugh was bitter, sharp. "Vivian's been quite enlightening since she showed up at my door this morning." "Where's Dad going?" I demanded. "What's he trying to fix?" "Haven't you guessed? He's racing to Mother's bedside. Yes, she's still alive. Barely. Terminal cancer. Eleanor's been caring for her all these years in secret. Rather poetic that both our mothers are dying at the same time, isn't it?" The ground seemed to sway beneath my feet. "Both? Oh," Claire's voice dripped false sympathy. "Didn't you know about Eleanor? Stage 4. She's been holding on just long enough to set this all in motion, to bring everything into the light before both our mothers take their secrets to the grave." Sophie grabbed my arm as I swayed. "Kylie, TikTok, sister dear," Claire continued. "2 dying mothers, 2 desperate fathers, and 15 years of lies unraveling. Shall we meet and compare notes? Or should we let them all keep playing their games until it's too late? I looked at Sophie, at the photos, at Claire's face on my phone screen, my face but hardened by a different kind of pain, a different kind of betrayal. Where? I asked. Where it all began, of course. Claire's smile was audible. The cabin in the last photo. Tonight. Bring your half of the truth, and I'll bring mine. Let's see what kind of story we can piece together. The line went dead, leaving me with a choice. Chase Dad to the hospital, or meet my twin at the cabin where our family's web of lies first began to spin. The cabin's porch light flickered as I pulled up, casting uncertain shadows across Claire's face. My face. She stood perfectly still, watching me park, and I understood why people always said I was unnerving when angry. We had the same cold stare. "Vivian's inside," she said as I approached, "making tea like this is some kind of normal family reunion." A text lit up my phone. Liam again. "At the hospital with Eleanor. She's asking for you. Where are you?" I silenced the phone. "Did you bring them?" Claire pulled out a stack of letters. Mother's correspondence with Eleanor over the years. Quite the bedtime reading. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your turn." I handed over the bank statements I'd photographed. We traded evidence like kids trading baseball cards, each desperate to complete our collection of family betrayals. Well. Claire rifled through the papers. Looks like Daddy Dearest was playing both sides, sending money to Mother through Eleanor while building his new life with Vivian. "And your half?" I asked. "Even better. Vivian knew about Mother being alive the whole time. She used it to blackmail Dad into the marriage. She wanted a ready-made family, and she got one, plus a backup daughter in case the first one proved difficult." The porch light buzzed, then steadied. Through the cabin window, I could see Vivian moving around the kitchen, her movements precise and controlled like always. "She's not what you think," Claire said, watching my expression. "Or maybe she is. Depends which version of Vivian you got, the smothering mother or the cruel stepmother." "Why did you really call me here?" "Because in exactly 6 months we turn 25. Mother's fortune splits between us, unless one of us isn't around to claim it." She let that hang in the air. Vivian's been quite chatty about contingency plans. My phone buzzed again. A text from Sophie. "Eleanor says don't trust anyone, not even me. Something about the inheritance being more complicated than we thought. Shall we?" Claire gestured to the door. "Vivian's waiting with her tea and her tales about how she was just trying to protect us all these years." "And you believe her?" "I believe she's terrified of losing control. Just like Dad, just like Eleanor, with her deathbed manipulations." Claire's smile turned sharp. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" Inside, Vivian had arranged everything perfectly. 3 cups, 3 saucers, 3 small cookies on bone china plates. Her hands shook slightly as she poured. "My girls," she said softly, "finally together." "Save it," Claire and I said simultaneously, then shared a look of mutual disgust at our synchronicity. "You don't understand." Vivian set down the teapot carefully. "Your mother, she wasn't well after you were born. Postpartum psychosis. She wanted to..." She stopped, swallowed. "Mark and I were protecting you." "By separating us?" I demanded. "By lying about her death?" "By giving you both a chance at a normal life." Vivian's voice hardened. "But Eleanor never accepted that. She kept interfering, kept sending money to your mother's treatments, kept threatening to tell you both everything." My phone buzzed one final time. A photo from Liam, Eleanor in her hospital bed, looking frail but determined, holding up a handwritten note. "The cabin is a trap. Vivian knows about the real Will." "Don't," Claire said sharply as I reached for my phone. "Whatever it is, it can wait. We need to finish this." Vivian's tea sat untouched, steam rising like accusations. Outside, a car crunched on gravel, headlights sweeping across the windows. "Right on time," Claire murmured. "Who did you call?" I demanded, but Claire just smiled, that same cold smile I'd seen in my mirror countless times. "Everyone," she said simply. Dad, Eleanor's lawyer, the police. Let's have it all out in the open, shall we? Every lie, every manipulation, every secret about what really happened the night they separated us. Vivian's teacup clattered against its saucer. Claire, we agreed. We agreed to nothing, Claire cut her off. You raised me to be exactly like you, remember? Calculating, patient, willing to do whatever it takes to win. She turned to me. The question is, dear sister, which one of us did they raise better, and which one of us deserves to survive this night? The headlights outside went dark, car doors slammed, and I realized, with sudden clarity, that I wasn't the only one seeking revenge in this cabin full of mirrors and lies. Dad burst through the cabin door first, followed by Eleanor's lawyer, a thin man clutching a leather briefcase like a shield. The sight of Claire and me together made Dad stumble, his practiced charm cracking completely. My God, he whispered. Quite the family resemblance, isn't it? Claire's voice dripped acid. Though I got Vivian's ruthlessness while Kylie here got Mother's moral compass. Pity, really. Vivian stood, smoothing her skirt. Mark, I can explain. The real will, I interrupted, holding up my phone with Eleanor's warning. What's in it? The lawyer cleared his throat. Perhaps we should... Tell them, Eleanor's voice carried from the doorway. She stood there, supported by Liam, looking frail but fierce. Tell them what you've been hiding, Mark, about Sarah's condition for the inheritance. Dad's face went ash grey. Mother, you need to be in the hospital. Sarah's condition, Eleanor continued, her voice strengthening, was that her fortune would go to whichever daughter chose to care for her in her final days. Not split between them, not controlled by guardians. One choice, one heir. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. That's why they separated us, Claire said softly, so neither of us could make that choice. But now Mother's dying, I added, the pieces clicking into place. And we're almost 25. And Vivian made sure I found out first. Claire's smile turned vicious. Gave me a head start to the cabin where Mother's been hiding all these years. Didn't you, Vivian? Vivian's hands trembled around her teacup. I was protecting you both. You were protecting yourself, Eleanor cut in. Because if the girls found Sarah, they'd learn about your role in their separation, about the threats you made to keep me quiet, about the money you've been stealing from Sarah's care fund. The lawyer opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. Mrs. Bennett, you should know that the police are... A gunshot cracked through the cabin. The lawyer dropped his briefcase, papers scattering like startled birds. Claire held a small pistol, smoke curling from the barrel. That was a warning, she said calmly. The next one won't be aimed at the ceiling. Claire, Dad stepped forward, hands raised. Whatever Vivian told you, she told me everything. About Mother's illness, about how you chose Vivian over your own wife, about the night you helped fake Mother's death because it was easier than dealing with her depression. Claire's hand stayed steady on the gun. But mostly she told me about the money. All that lovely money, just waiting for one worthy daughter. My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Sophie. Sarah's gone. Eleanor just got the call. I'm so sorry. Too late, I whispered, showing Claire the message. We're too late. Claire laughed, a broken sound that mirrored the fractures in our family. No, sister dear, we're right on time, because now there's no choice to make, no mother to care for, just an inheritance up for grabs, and a cabin full of people who've lied to us our entire lives. Claire, please. Vivian stepped forward. I raised you. You used me, Claire's voice cracked. Just like you used Kylie. Just like you used everyone. And now... She swung the gun toward Vivian. I moved without thinking, knocking Claire's arm up as the second shot rang out. The bullet splintered wood somewhere above us. We grappled for the gun, mirror images locked in combat, while our family watched in horror. Stop! Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. Sarah's last letter. Show them, Mark. Show them what this fortune has really cost us all. Dad reached into his jacket with shaking hands, pulling out the worn envelope I'd seen at my apartment, the one that had disappeared. Your mother knew, he said quietly. She knew what the money would do to our family, That's why she wrote this. To warn us. To stop exactly this from happening. Claire's grip on the gun loosened just enough. I wrenched it away, stepping back as she laughed again. That same broken sound that could have been mine under different circumstances. Read it, Claire demanded. Read what Mother knew about the monsters we'd become. I held the gun on her as Dad opened the envelope, his hands shaking so badly he could barely unfold the paper. The cabin fell silent, except for Eleanor's labored breathing and the sound of ancient paper crackling, a letter from the dead about to judge the living. Mom's handwriting flowed across the yellowed page, steady and sure. My dearest daughters, if you're reading this, then the money has already poisoned our family beyond recognition. Claire's laugh caught in her throat. I kept the gun trained on her, but my hand trembled. The fortune was never meant to divide you, Dad read, his voice cracking. It was meant to bring you together. The clause about choosing one heir, it was a test. I knew what greed could do to people. I'd seen it destroy my own family. Skip to the end, Vivian snapped, but Eleanor raised a withered hand. Let him finish. The real inheritance, Dad continued, isn't money at all. It's the truth. About who you are. About why I had to leave. About the choice I made the night everything changed. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. Sarah knew. She knew what Vivian and I were planning. She wrote this the night before we separated you. The night you drugged her and declared her mentally unfit, Eleanor said quietly. The night you stole her children and her dignity, all because you couldn't handle her postpartum depression. Claire lunged for the letter. I blocked her, but she wasn't reaching for the gun. She was reaching for Dad. Her fingers closed around his throat. You killed her, she snarled. Not literally, but you killed everything she was. Everything we could have been. Claire, Vivian stepped forward. I raised you better than... You raised me to be a weapon. Claire spun toward her, releasing Dad. Someone who could hurt Kylie when the time came. Someone who could eliminate the competition for the inheritance. Well, congratulations. Here's your perfect daughter, ready to kill for money she doesn't even want anymore. The gun felt heavy in my hand. What do you mean, doesn't want? Because it was never about the money, was it? Claire's voice broke. It was about them. About making them feel what we felt, lost, betrayed, broken. Eleanor moved forward, each step clearly painful. Sarah knew this would happen. That's why she left something else. Something only I knew about. She pulled an envelope from her pocket, newer, crisp. The real will, the one she wrote after she recovered, after she rebuilt her life in secret. The one that leaves everything to charity unless... Unless what? Vivian demanded. Unless her daughters choose each other over the money. Eleanor's eyes met mine. Unless they prove they're better than the greed that destroyed their family. A sound escaped Claire, half laugh, half sob. That's why you brought us here, all of us, so we could choose. Choose to be sisters, I finished, or choose to be enemies. The gun lowered slowly between us. Claire stared at it, then at me, then at the letter still trembling in Dad's hands. She recovered, Claire whispered. She got better, and they still kept us apart. They still lost, Eleanor cut in. Because here you are, together at last. The question is, what will you do with that truth? Vivian moved suddenly, reaching for something in her purse. I raised the gun again, but Claire was faster. She knocked Vivian's hand away, sending a second gun skittering across the floor. Always have a backup plan, Claire said bitterly. Isn't that what you taught me, Mother? The cabin fell silent except for Eleanor's labored breathing and the sound of sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police after the gunshot. Choose, Eleanor said simply. Claire looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time since I'd arrived. I saw myself reflected in her eyes, all the pain, all the anger, all the years of manipulation and lies. But I saw something else too, something that looked like hope. I set the gun down on the table between us. I choose my sister, I said quietly. Claire's hands shook as she reached for the gun, not to take it, but to slide it further away. I choose mine. Eleanor smiled, tears in her eyes. as she opened the final envelope. "Then let me show you what your mother really left you. Not money, not revenge, but something far more valuable." The sirens grew closer as Eleanor began to read, her voice steady despite her illness. And as the truth finally emerged, I realized Mum had known all along what would heal our broken family. Not wealth, not vengeance, but the simple, devastating power of choosing love over hate. Eleanor's funeral was small, just me, Claire, Liam, and Sophie. Dad didn't come, neither did Vivian, who was awaiting trial for financial fraud and attempted assault. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Eleanor's fresh grave, each one a secret finally laid to rest. "She left us one last letter," Claire said, pulling an envelope from her coat. "Said we should read it together after." I touched the headstone, tracing Eleanor's name. Next to it stood our mother's marker, empty all these years, now finally bearing witness to truth. Sarah Mitchell had died 3 days after Eleanor, as if waiting just long enough to know her daughters had chosen right. "Read it," Liam said quietly. He'd been staying with me since everything happened, learning to navigate this new reality where his sisters were twins and his parents were strangers. Claire's hands shook slightly as she opened the envelope. "My dear granddaughters, if you're reading this, you've already made the choice your mother hoped you would. But there's one last secret I've kept." She stopped, colour draining from her face. "What is it?" I asked. "The fortune isn't gone," Claire whispered. "Eleanor transferred it all into a new trust, one that only activates if we work together. She writes, 'The money was never the poison, it was the greed it inspired. Now it's yours to use differently, to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of break.'" Sophie touched my shoulder gently. "What will you do?" I looked at Claire, my mirror, my opposite, my sister. We'd spent the past week learning each other, discovering how the same wounds had scarred us differently. Her anger had turned outward, mine inward. Her revenge had been loud, mine quiet. But we'd both been searching for the same thing: connection. "There's a women's shelter downtown," I said slowly. "They help mothers dealing with postpartum depression, like Mom." Claire nodded. "And a legal fund for families torn apart by custody battles, children separated from siblings." "Eleanor knew," Liam said. "She knew you'd choose this." A police car pulled up to the cemetery gates. Detective Morris stepped out, the same officer who'd responded to the cabin incident. She'd been surprisingly understanding about everything, once Eleanor explained the full story. "They're moving Vivian to county," she called over. "Thought you should know. She's asking to talk to you both. Says she has more to tell you about the night you were separated." Claire's hand found mine, squeezing tight. "No more secrets," she said firmly. "We have the truth we need." I squeezed back, remembering Mum's final letter. "The past will echo through your lives, my daughters, but you choose which echoes to answer. The trust requires both our signatures," Claire continued. "Both our voices, both our choices, always." Like Mum wanted all along, I realized. She knew the only way to break the cycle was to force us to work together, to choose each other, over and over again. Detective Morris waited patiently by her car. Behind her, I could see Dad's familiar silhouette approaching the cemetery, hesitant, uncertain, still carrying his own echoes of guilt and grief. "Ready?" Claire asked, but she wasn't looking at the trust papers in her hand. She was looking at Dad's approaching figure, at the weight of forgiveness neither of us was quite prepared to offer. "Not yet," I answered honestly, "but we'll get there." Sophie and Liam stepped back, giving us space as we turned to face our father together. The trust papers crinkled in Claire's pocket. Not an inheritance anymore, but a responsibility. A chance to turn vengeance into healing, betrayal into growth. "Girls," Dad started, his voice breaking. "I don't expect—" "Just listen," Claire cut him off, her tone firm but not cruel. "We have something to tell you about Mom, about who she really was, and who we've chosen to become." The autumn wind picked up again, scattering more leaves across Eleanor's grave. But this time, they didn't feel like secrets anymore. They felt like possibilities, scattered wide and free, waiting to take root in whatever soil we chose to plant them in. Some echoes, I was learning, don't have to hurt. Some can heal if you let them. If you choose them, again and again, until the sound of love drowns out the memory of pain.
The sound of sobbing echoed through my empty house, stopping me dead in my tracks. I'd been fumbling with my keys, exhausted from a late meeting, when those broken sounds pulled me toward the living room. There, curled up on my couch, was Carly, my son's fiancée, mascara streaking down her face like black rain. "I tried calling you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Ryan won't listen to me. He won't listen to anyone anymore." I dropped my briefcase and sat beside her, my heart already racing. "What happened?" "Tom happened." She spat my ex-husband's name like poison. "He convinced Ryan to invest everything, our house deposit, our savings, everything, into his new tech startup." The room seemed to tilt sideways. 20 years of carefully maintaining distance from Tom's schemes, of protecting Ryan from his father's influence, all unraveled in an instant. "How much?" $240,000. Carly's hands trembled as she wiped her eyes. "Ryan says it's going to change our lives, that his father has inside connections, guaranteed returns." I knew those words. I'd heard them before, back when Tom had convinced my parents to invest in his foolproof real estate venture. They'd lost their retirement fund. Now here he was, 2 decades later, spinning the same web around our son. "When did this happen?" 3 days ago. I've been trying to talk sense into Ryan, but he keeps saying I don't understand business like his father does. Carly's voice hardened. "He's different now, Isla. It's like Tom's gotten inside his head." My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Mom, don't listen to Carly if she comes to you. She's just scared of taking risks. Dad's company is going to be huge." I showed Carly the message. She laughed, but it was hollow. "Risks? We were supposed to get married in 4 months. Now he's gambling our future on Tom's promises. Tell me everything you know about this startup." As Carly detailed Tom's pitch, revolutionary AI technology, prominent investors, guaranteed IPO within 18 months, I recognized his trademark mix of vague promises and specific numbers. He'd always known exactly how to make fantasy sound like fact. "Has Ryan signed anything yet?" "The transfer's scheduled for tomorrow morning." Carly stood up, pacing now. "He won't even show me the paperwork. Says it's all confidential." My phone buzzed again. Tom this time. "Isla, stay out of this. Ryan's finally thinking like a businessman. Don't ruin this for him." The familiar rage rose in my chest, but I forced it down. Getting emotional was exactly what Tom wanted. He'd always used my anger to paint me as the irrational one, the obstacle to progress. "Carly, I need you to go home and act normal. Don't mention you were here. I'm going to make some calls." "What are you going to do?" I thought about Mason, my friend in securities regulation, about the files I'd kept from Tom's previous ventures, about all the people he'd burned over the years who might finally want to talk. I'm going to show Ryan who his father really is, but I need time to do it right. Carly gathered her things, hesitating at the door. "Ryan loves you, Isla, but right now he's looking at Tom like he's some kind of savior." "I know. That's exactly what Tom wants." I hugged her tightly. "Go home. Trust me." After she left, I sat in the darkness, Tom's text glowing accusingly on my screen. 20 years ago, I'd walked away from his schemes, protecting myself but leaving others vulnerable. I wouldn't make that mistake again. This time, I'd tear down his house of cards brick by brick, even if it meant risking my relationship with Ryan. I picked up my phone and dialed Mason's number. It rang twice before his gruff voice answered. "Mason, remember that favor you owe me? I need everything you can find on a new tech startup, and I need it before tomorrow morning." Mason's research arrived at dawn. 3 pages of carefully documented red flags about Tom's startup. I hadn't slept, spending the night rehearsing what I'd say to Ryan. But when I pulled into the parking lot of Tom's gleaming office building, my carefully planned speech evaporated. Tom stood outside, arm around Ryan's shoulders, both of them laughing. The sight hit me like a physical blow. Ryan looked exactly like his father had 20 years ago. Same confident stance, same bright-eyed belief that the world was about to hand him everything he'd ever wanted. "Mom?" Ryan's smile faltered when he saw me. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk." I gripped Mason's papers in my coat pocket. All of us. Tom's charm switched on like a spotlight. "Isla, always a pleasure. But Ryan and I have a meeting with investors in 10 minutes. Cancel it." I stepped closer, forcing Tom to look me in the eye. "Unless you'd rather I share what I know about TechVision's funding sources with your investors directly?" The mask slipped for just a second, a flash of something cold and calculating behind Tom's easy smile. "Ryan, why don't you head upstairs? Your mother and I need to catch up." "No." I kept my voice steady. "Ryan stays. He needs to hear this." "Hear what?" Ryan moved closer to his father. "Mom, if this is about Carly, it's about the shell companies." I pulled out Mason's papers. 3 of them, all registered in the Cayman Islands, all feeding money into TechVision through a series of fake investments. "Want to explain that, Tom?" Tom laughed, but I caught the tension in his shoulders. "Business structures are complicated, Isla. Not everything is a conspiracy." "The same business structures you used in 2008? When you convinced my parents to invest their retirement fund in your revolutionary real estate venture?" Ryan's head snapped toward his father. "What's she talking about?" "Ancient history." Tom waved his hand dismissively. "Your mother never understood." "They lost everything," I cut in. "Just like the investors in your 2012 venture and your 2015 startup. Different names, same pattern. Create buzz, collect investments, then the company mysteriously fails while the money disappears offshore." "Dad?" Ryan's voice had lost its certainty. "Is that true?" "Of course not. Your mother's always been jealous of my success." Tom's smile turned sharp. "Remember who paid for your college, Ryan? Remember who's offering you a real future, not just small-town mediocrity." "The money's gone, isn't it?" I pressed. "TechVision's AI technology doesn't exist. You're using Ryan's investment to pay off your last round of investors, aren't you?" Tom's facade cracked. "You don't know what you're talking about. I have proof." I held up the papers. Bank transfers, shell company registrations, everything. "How many other young investors have you convinced to bet their futures on empty promises?" Ryan grabbed the papers from my hand, scanning them quickly. His face went pale. "These dates, these match when you first contacted me about investing." "Son, listen. Don't call me that." Ryan's voice shook. "Were you ever going to tell me? Or was I just another mark?" Tom's charm vanished entirely. "You ungrateful little..." He caught himself, forcing a laugh. "This is ridiculous. We have real investors waiting upstairs. Real opportunities. Your mother's trying to sabotage your future because she can't stand seeing you succeed where she failed." "The transfer hasn't gone through yet, has it?" I asked Ryan quietly. He shook his head, still staring at the papers. "Then there's still time." I touched his arm gently. "Come home. Talk to Carly. Make your own decisions, not his." "Ryan." Tom's voice hardened. "If you walk away now, don't expect any help from me ever again. No connections, no opportunities, nothing." Ryan looked between us, 22 years of manipulation and love warring on his face. Then he straightened his shoulders and handed the papers back to me. "I don't want your help," he said to Tom. "I don't want anything from you." He turned and walked away, leaving Tom and me alone in the morning sun. Tom's mask was gone completely now, replaced by something ugly and familiar. "You'll regret this," he said softly. "Both of you." I watched him stride into the building, already reaching for his phone. He'd find new investors, new victims, unless I stopped him. "No," I whispered to his retreating back. "This time, you'll regret it." I pulled out my phone and dialed Mason's number again. It was time for phase 2, Mason's office felt like a war room, scattered with documents and empty coffee cups. 3 days of digging had revealed the full scope of Tom's deception, each layer darker than the last. Your ex-husband's been busy. Mason tapped his keyboard, bringing up another spreadsheet. Tech Vision's just the tip of the iceberg. He's running at least 4 other schemes under different names. I leaned closer to the screen, my stomach churning. Those investment amounts, all from young professionals, mostly children of his old victims. Mason's voice hardened. He's targeting them specifically, using their parents' financial struggles as motivation. Don't end up like them, that sort of pitch. My phone buzzed. Another message from Ryan. He'd been staying with Carly, trying to process everything. I opened it, then wished I hadn't. Dad called. Says he can prove you're lying. Wants to meet. Isla? Mason touched my arm. What is it? Before I could answer, his office door burst open. Carly stood there, mascara streaked across her face. Ryan's gone. What do you mean, gone? He left this morning to meet Tom. Said he needed to hear both sides. She thrust her phone at me. Then I got this email. The screen showed a formal letter from Tech Vision's legal department threatening action against Ryan for corporate espionage. According to the document, he'd stolen proprietary information during his last visit to Tom's office. It's complete bullshit, Mason said, reading over my shoulder. But it'll tie him up in legal fees for years if Tom pursues it. That's not all. Carly's voice cracked. Tom's offering to drop everything if Ryan recommits to the investment. Double the amount this time. The room spun slightly. Where are they meeting? The Marina Hotel, some kind of investor lunch. Carly grabbed my arm. Isla, he's going to take the deal. He called it fixing things. I checked my watch. 40 minutes until noon. Mason, send everything we have to your contact at the Securities Commission. Everything. That'll trigger an immediate investigation. He hesitated. Tom will know it was you. Good. I grabbed my coat. Carly, come with me. Ryan needs to see who else Tom's hurt. The drive to the marina felt endless. Carly filled the silence with details. How Ryan had grown distant over the past few days, spending hours on the phone with Tom, coming home with wild dreams of tech empire success. We found them in the hotel's restaurant, Tom holding court at a table full of young faces. Ryan sat beside him, shoulders tight, staring at a stack of papers. Just sign here, son. Tom's voice carried across the room. Show everyone you're not afraid of real success. I scanned the other faces around the table. A young woman with her father's tired eyes, 2 brothers wearing identical expressions of desperate hope. All children of Tom's previous victims, all carrying their parents' broken dreams. Ryan. My voice cut through the murmur of conversation. Before you sign, there's something you need to see. Tom's charm never wavered. Isla, this is a private business meeting. Show them, Carly. She stepped forward, opening her laptop. On the screen, a video began playing. Tom's previous victims sharing their stories. The parents of everyone at that table describing how they'd lost everything. Turn that off, Tom snapped, but the young woman was already standing. Dad? Her voice shook. Is that why you couldn't afford my college? The brothers exchanged glances. Our parents' bankruptcy. Ryan stared at the screen, then at the papers in front of him. You said they were just bitter about missing out. That they didn't have the vision to stay invested. They didn't understand business, Tom started, but Ryan was already standing. Like I don't understand? He looked around the table. Like none of us understand? How many times have you run this same con? Ryan, son, I saw the legal threats. Ryan's voice was ice. Trying to blackmail me into investing more? That's what a father does? The room erupted into chaos. Young investors demanding answers, Tom trying to maintain control, papers being snatched and scrutinized. Through it all, Ryan walked straight to Carly and held her tight. I'm sorry, he whispered. I almost lost everything believing in him again. I watched Tom's carefully constructed world crumble, satisfaction warring with old grief. He caught my eye across the chaos and mouthed 2 words. Watch out. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had truth on my side, and a family worth fighting for. Whatever Tom was planning, I'd be ready. Mason's text confirmed it. Securities Commission moving in, hold tight. The real war was just beginning. The Securities Commission investigation hit a wall 3 days after the Marina Hotel confrontation. I sat in Mason's office, staring at an email that made my blood run cold. All the evidence is gone. Mason's voice was tight with frustration. Every document, every transfer record, everything we sent them disappeared from their servers overnight. That's impossible. I scrolled through the email again. Unless someone very powerful made it possible. Mason leaned back, rubbing his temples. Tom has friends in high places, Isla. Friends who owe him favors. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Back off while you still can. T. The office door opened and Ryan burst in, his face ashen. Mom, they're freezing my accounts. All of them. The bank says it's part of a fraud investigation. Against me. I felt the trap closing. Tom hadn't just been threatening legal action. He'd been laying groundwork. What exactly did they say? That I'm under investigation for attempting to defraud Tech Vision investors. Ryan's hands shook as he pulled out a formal notice. They're saying I tried to sabotage the company to manipulate stock prices. There's evidence, Mom. Evidence I've never seen before. Mason grabbed the notice, scanning it quickly. This is sophisticated. Forged emails, backdated documents. He's trying to make Ryan the scapegoat for everything. My phone buzzed again. Tom this time, not hiding behind unknown numbers. Let's talk. Just us. Or Ryan loses more than his money. Don't. Ryan grabbed my arm. He's trying to separate us, divide and conquer like always. But I was already reaching for my coat. Mason, start calling in favors. Anyone who might have dirt on Tom's real operations. Ryan, go home to Carly. Don't talk to anyone about this. Mom, trust me. I squeezed his hand. I won't let him win. Not this time. The drive to Tom's office felt like entering enemy territory. Security waved me through. They were expecting me. Tom stood at his window, backlit by the setting sun, looking every inch the successful businessman he pretended to be. You should see your face right now. He didn't turn around. Same expression you had when you first figured out what I really am. Remember that day? I remember everything. I stayed by the door. What do you want? Want? I want you to understand consequences. Now he turned, smile sharp as broken glass. Actions have ripples, Isla. Your little crusade? It's not just hurting me anymore. He tossed a file onto his desk. Inside were photos. Ryan at college, at parties, at work. Documents showing transactions I knew he'd never made. Emails he'd never written. Stop this. My voice didn't shake. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. I will. When you publicly retract everything, tell the Securities Commission you made it all up out of spite. Watch me succeed while you and Ryan go back to your small, safe lives. Or Ryan goes to prison for fraud. His future, his reputation, everything, gone. Tom's smile widened. Choose, Isla. Your revenge or your son's life. My phone vibrated. A message from Mason. Don't give in. Found something big. Need 24 hours. Tom watched me, confident in his victory. He'd always been good at forcing impossible choices, backing people into corners until they broke. You're right, I said quietly. Actions have ripples. His smile faltered slightly. So you'll do it? I walked to his desk, picked up the file of fabricated evidence. You know what I remembered today? That safe in your old office, the one you thought I never found. The smile vanished completely. What? 20 years of secrets, Tom. 20 years of real evidence I kept, just in case. A complete lie, but I saw the flash of fear in his eyes. Want to talk about ripples? You're bluffing. Maybe. I turned toward the door. You have 24 hours to clear Ryan's name and drop everything. or we'll see whose evidence is more convincing. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. I walked out, heart pounding, praying Mason's lead was as big as he promised. Because I just started a countdown I couldn't stop, and Tom wasn't a man who handled desperation well. The game had changed. Now we were both playing for keeps. Mason's something big arrived at midnight. A trembling woman named Sarah standing in my kitchen, clutching a laptop to her chest. She was Tom's accountant, Mason explained quietly. Until 3 days ago. Sarah's fingers shook as she opened files. He doesn't know I kept copies. He thinks everything's gone, like with the Securities Commission, but She stopped, swallowing hard. I couldn't sleep after what he did to those families. The screen filled with spreadsheets, bank transfers, emails. A complete record of Tom's schemes going back 5 years. But something else caught my eye. Recent transfers to offshore accounts, all made within hours of our confrontation. He's preparing to run, Mason said, studying the data. These amounts, he's liquidating everything. My phone lit up. Carly calling at midnight never meant good news. Ryan's gone, she blurted before I could speak. He got a call from Tom an hour ago, said he was going to fix everything himself. The kitchen tilted sideways. Fix it how? I don't know, but he took all his documents about Tech Vision, said something about making things right. Sarah's head snapped up. Tonight's the private investor meeting, top floor of the Tech Vision building. Mr. Wallace said no one could disturb him. Because he's closing deals before he disappears. I grabbed my keys. Mason, get that evidence to everyone. Media, authorities, everyone. Sarah, you're staying here where it's safe. Isla, wait. Mason caught my arm. Tom's desperate. If Ryan threatens his escape plan, then I need to move faster. The night air hit like a slap as I drove. Ryan wasn't answering his phone. Neither was Tom. The Tech Vision building loomed ahead, most windows dark except the top floor. Security tried to stop me. I showed them an old keycard from when Tom and I were married, praying it still worked. It did. He'd never bothered to remove my access. Arrogance or oversight, it didn't matter now. The elevator felt endless. I could hear raised voices through the penthouse door. Ryan's anger, Tom's smooth reassurances, other voices I didn't recognize. You're lying. Ryan's shout cut through clearly. I saw the transfer records. You're stealing everything. Son, you're confused. Don't call me that. You were going to let me take the fall while you ran away. I pushed through the door. Ryan stood facing Tom across a conference table, investors shrinking back against the walls. Father and son, mirror images of fury and betrayal. Security will handle this, Tom said smoothly, reaching for his phone. They're busy, I replied, dealing with federal agents in the lobby. Tom's mask slipped. You're bluffing. Check your accounts, Tom. Check the news. Sarah says hello. His fingers flew across his phone. I watched the color drain from his face as headlines appeared. Tech Vision fraud exposed, CEO under investigation, whistleblower reveals years of deception. You can't prove. He stopped as Ryan dropped a stack of papers on the table. My copies of everything, Ryan said quietly. The real documents, not your forgeries. The ones that show I was just another victim, not your accomplice. The investors were already moving, gathering their things, murmuring about lawyers. Tom's carefully constructed world crumbled in real time. This isn't over. He straightened his tie, that old, familiar gesture of control. You have no idea what I'm still capable of. Neither do you. I stepped between him and Ryan. But you're about to find out what I'm capable of. 20 years of watching, learning, waiting. Did you really think I didn't have a plan? Mom. Ryan's hand touched my shoulder. Let's go. Let him face what's coming alone. We turned to leave, but Tom's voice stopped us. I'll destroy you both. Everything you have, everything you are. No. I didn't turn around. You won't, because you don't exist anymore. Check your accounts again. The roar of rage behind us, the sound of something expensive shattering, followed us to the elevator. Ryan's hands were shaking. Did you really? Mason's friend in cybersecurity did. Every account, every hidden fund, gone. The elevator descended into uncertainty, but for the first time in weeks, I felt steady. The war wasn't over. Tom wouldn't go quietly, but tonight's battle was ours. Mom? Ryan's voice was small. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. I squeezed his hand as Sarah's evidence lit up phones across the city, burning Tom's empire to ash. The call came at 3 a.m, Mason's voice tight with urgency. Sarah's gone. Her apartment's been ransacked. I sat up in bed, already reaching for clothes. Police? On their way, but... He paused. There's something else. All her copies of the evidence are corrupted. Every file, every backup. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. That's not possible. We had everything secured. Tom had a failsafe. Some kind of delayed virus. It's hitting everywhere. News outlets, federal servers, everything we sent out. It's all turning to gibberish. My phone buzzed with a text. Did you really think I wouldn't be prepared? T. I drove through empty streets to Mason's office where Ryan and Carly were already waiting. The scene was chaos. Computers running diagnostics, phones ringing, Mason's team trying desperately to salvage what remained of Sarah's evidence. The virus is sophisticated, one tech explained. It's not just corrupting files, it's replacing them with false data. Data that makes everything look legitimate. What about the hard copies? Ryan asked. The papers I gave the investors? Mason shook his head. Already getting calls. Documents apparently showing those were forgeries. Tom's covering every angle. My phone lit up again. An email from Tom's lawyer. As I read, my hands started to shake. Mom? Ryan moved closer. What is it? He's suing us. All of us. Defamation, corporate espionage, criminal conspiracy. I looked up at Mason. The evidence he's presenting. It makes us look like we planned this whole thing. Like we're the ones running a con. That's insane, Carly protested. No one will believe. They already are. Mason turned his laptop, showing news headlines. Tech Vision CEO claims conspiracy. Evidence of corporate sabotage emerges. Whistleblower credibility questioned. Where's Sarah? Ryan's voice cracked. She can still testify. If we can find her. Mason rubbed his temples. And if Tom hasn't already gotten to her. My phone buzzed again. Tom's number this time. Against every instinct, I answered. Ready to end this? His voice was smooth, victorious. One public statement from you, admitting you fabricated everything out of spite, and this all goes away. Ryan keeps his freedom, your friend Mason keeps his license, and poor Sarah, well, let's say she'll be able to come home. You son of a... Careful, Isla. Everything you say is being recorded. For legal purposes, of course. He chuckled. You have 1 hour to decide. Tick-tock. The line went dead. I looked around the office, at Ryan's pale face, at Carly's tears, at Mason's defeated slump. He's won, Ryan whispered. Hasn't he? Before I could answer, Mason's computer chimed. A video call from an unknown number. When he answered, Sarah's face appeared, bruised but alive. I'm safe, she said quickly. But they're coming. Tom's people found my real backup, the one I never told anyone about. They're heading to the old records facility now. What backup? Mason leaned forward. Paper trails, years of them, in a storage unit under my grandmother's name. Everything printed, dated, notarized. She glanced over her shoulder. But they know, they'll destroy it all. The address appeared in chat. Across town, in the industrial district. Tom's people would be closer. Mom, no. Ryan grabbed my arm as I reached for my keys. It's too dangerous. He's desperate now. Exactly. I pulled free. Desperate means sloppy. Desperate means mistakes. Then I'm coming with you. No. I faced him fully. If this goes wrong, I need you clean. Someone has to be left to tell the truth. Mason stepped forward. Isla, keep them safe. I was already moving. And be ready. Whatever happens, be ready. The night air hit like ice as I ran to my car. Another text from Tom lit up my phone. Wrong choice, as usual. But for the first time since this started, I smiled. Because Tom had forgotten something crucial about desperate people. They weren't the only ones who could make mistakes. I pressed the accelerator, racing toward either salvation or destruction, knowing that whatever waited at that storage facility would change everything. One way or another, this ended tonight. The storage facility loomed ahead, a maze of identical metal doors under flickering fluorescent lights. 2 black SUVs were already parked outside. Tom's people had beaten me here. But they hadn't found what they were looking for yet, or they'd be gone. Unit 247, Sarah's grandmother's unit. I crept through the corridors, following the numbered sequence until voices echoed ahead. It has to be here somewhere. Tom's voice, tight with frustration. Tear everything apart if you have to. I pressed against the wall, peering around the corner. Tom stood with 3 men in suits, surrounded by opened boxes and scattered papers. But they were at Unit 247B. Sarah, clever Sarah, had given them the wrong unit. Sir? One suit held up his phone. Security cameras show movement in Section C. Find whoever it is. Tom kicked a box aside. This whole place gets burned if we have to. I waited until 2 suits disappeared around the corner, then moved. Unit 247 was 3 doors down from Tom. The key Sarah had texted worked silently. Inside, stacked bankers' boxes filled the small space, each labeled meticulously. Tech Vision Fraud, 2019-2024. Offshore accounts, investor lists. 20 years of Tom's crimes preserved in paper and ink. Looking for something? I spun. Tom stood in the doorway, his last suit behind him. It's over, Tom. Nothing's over until I say it is. He stepped inside, eyes scanning the labels. All these years you were collecting evidence? Planning your revenge? No. I moved between him and the boxes. Sarah collected these. I just helped her find the courage to use them. Sarah. He laughed bitterly. The quiet little accountant. Should have known. He nodded to his suit. Burn it. The man reached into his jacket. I grabbed the nearest box and hurled it, scattering papers between them and me. Tom lunged forward, but I was already moving, slamming into him with 20 years of pent-up rage. We crashed into the hallway. The suit's lighter fluid splashed across the floor, igniting instantly. Smoke filled the narrow space. You never understood, did you? Tom grabbed my throat, pinning me against the wall. Power isn't about right or wrong. It's about who's willing to do whatever it takes. No. Another voice cut through the smoke. It's about truth. Ryan stood at the corridor's end, phone raised, live streaming everything. Behind him, Mason and 2 federal agents advanced with weapons drawn. Federal agents. Hands up. Tom's grip loosened. For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. It's not just Sarah's evidence anymore. Ryan's voice shook with fury. Everyone's watching. Everyone's seeing who you really are. The suit surrendered immediately, but Tom backed away toward the growing flames. You think this changes anything? His calm mask cracked, revealing something desperate beneath. I'll start over. I always do. And you'll spend years trying to prove everything while you what? Mason stepped forward, badge raised. Run? Hide? The livestream has 50,000 viewers already. Every exit's covered. It's done. Tom looked at Ryan, one last attempt at manipulation. Son, I'm not your son. Ryan's phone stayed steady. I'm her son, and you're nothing but a fraud. The federal agents moved in. Tom's shoulders slumped as the handcuffs clicked shut. The fire department sirens wailed in the distance. The boxes? I coughed through the smoke. Saved most of them. Mason helped me up. Sarah's already at the federal building, giving her statement. You were right. Desperate people make mistakes. I watched them lead Tom away, his expensive suit covered in ash, his empire crumbling in real time as Ryan's live stream captured everything. "Mom?" Ryan lowered his phone finally. "Are you okay?" I touched my bruised throat, feeling the weight of 2 decades lifting. "I am now." Outside, reporters were already gathering. Tom's carefully constructed facade of success would be tomorrow's cautionary tale. But more importantly, his power to hurt people was finally, permanently broken. "Ready to tell your story?" Mason asked quietly. I looked at Ryan, who nodded encouragement. "Yes," I said. "I think it's time everyone heard the truth. The truth about power, about justice, about the quiet strength it takes to stand against someone who would sacrifice anything or anyone to win. The truth about how sometimes the greatest victory isn't in destroying your enemy, but in simply surviving long enough to expose them to the light." The courthouse steps felt different in the morning sun. No reporters remained, no cameras tracked our movements. Just the quiet aftermath of justice, settling like dust after a storm, guilty on all counts. Mason folded the morning paper. Tom's face splashed across the front page. Maximum sentences. The judge made an example of him. I watched Ryan and Carly across the plaza, heads bent together over coffee cups, planning their rescheduled wedding. The simple sight of them, free from Tom's shadow, felt like victory enough. "Sarah called," Mason continued. "The victim restitution fund is already over $8 million. More coming in daily as other schemes surface. And the others?" I asked quietly. "Tom's network is falling apart. His connections are scrambling to save themselves, turning on each other. 20 years of carefully built influence, gone in weeks." A familiar car pulled up to the curb. Tom's mother emerged, clutching an envelope. She'd sat behind him every day of the trial, watching her son's carefully constructed facade crumble under the weight of evidence. "Isla." She approached slowly, uncertain. This was in his things. He wanted Ryan to have it. Ryan noticed her presence, tensing slightly. I took the envelope. "I'll make sure he gets it." She nodded, aged beyond her years. Tell him I'm sorry for everything we enabled." After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, Tom's confession, written the night before sentencing. Not the legal one his lawyers had arranged, but a real one. Raw, honest. "Mom?" Ryan appeared at my shoulder. "What is it?" I handed him the letter. He read it slowly, Carly's hand steady on his arm. "He actually admitted it," Ryan whispered. "Everything. The manipulation, the lies, using me to get to other investors' children. People can surprise you," I said, "even at the end. Should I visit him?" "That's your choice, no one else's." Ryan folded the letter carefully. "Maybe someday. When I'm ready. When it's about healing, not anger." Carly squeezed his hand. "Whatever you decide, we'll face it together." Mason's phone buzzed. He read the message, eyebrows rising. "The investment firm that bought TechVision's assets? They want to meet with Ryan. Something about his original software designs actually having potential." "Really?" Carly brightened. "They said someone vouched for his integrity, someone who lost everything to Tom years ago, but recognized genuine talent when they saw Ryan's work." I watched understanding dawn on Ryan's face. Sometimes karma worked in unexpected ways, turning old wounds into new beginnings. "What do you think?" he asked me. "I think you should trust yourself. You know the difference now, between real opportunity and empty promises." He hugged me suddenly, fierce and protective. I learned from the best. The morning breeze carried away the last whispers of Tom's influence. Not through revenge or destruction, but through truth. Through the quiet strength of standing firm, protecting what mattered, letting justice find its own path. Mason touched my arm. "The Securities Commission wants to consult with you about helping other families spot investment fraud before it's too late. Using the past to protect the future?" I smiled slightly. "I'd like that." Ryan and Carly walked ahead, discussing wedding plans again. Mason followed, already making calls. I lingered a moment, watching my family, the one I'd fought for, the one I'd chosen, move forward into the light. The courthouse doors opened behind me. More families emerged, carrying their own stories of justice and healing. Some nodded to me in recognition, sharing the weight of similar battles won. I descended the steps slowly, leaving behind the echoes of old pain and fresh victory. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new choices, but we'd face them together, stronger for having weathered this storm. The morning sun caught my wedding ring. Not Tom's, but the one I'd bought myself after the divorce, a promise of independence. It sparked briefly, like justice finally served, like truth finally spoken, like love finally freed from the shadows of deception. I joined my family, ready for whatever came next. Because some victories aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to stand up, speak out, and protect what matters most, no matter the cost.
The silver happy birthday banner droops pathetically over the dining room entrance, forgotten and askew like everything else about my 24th birthday. Inside, champagne glasses clink as my family celebrates Emma's latest triumph, a promotion to senior marketing director that apparently matters more than my existence. I'm Jade, the Thompson family's perpetual afterthought. To Emma, Mother raises her glass, her pearl necklace catching the chandelier light. We always knew you were destined for greatness, sweetheart. I stand in the corner, clutching my untouched champagne, watching the familiar scene unfold. Emma basks in the attention, her perfectly manicured hand resting on her husband Ryan's shoulder while their kids, Lucas and Mason, chase each other around the dining table. Such an achievement at 31, Father beams, his pride practically radiating. The youngest senior director in the company's history. The irony of celebrating Emma's success on my birthday isn't lost on me. But then again, nothing about this family ever is. I take a sip of champagne, letting the bitter bubbles match my mood. We should discuss the house renovation now, Emma announces, her voice carrying that entitled tone I've grown to despise. Ryan and I found the perfect contractor. Mother clasps her hands together. Oh, wonderful. Mark, we should help them with the down payment. I nearly choke on my drink. Last month, when I asked for help with my student loan payments, they claimed finances were tight. Funny how money materializes when Emma needs it. Actually, I clear my throat. I was hoping we could discuss. Not now, Jade. Mother cuts me off with a dismissive wave. Emma's showing us the renovation plans. I slip away to the kitchen, needing space to breathe. Through the door, I hear them continuing their discussion about Emma's perfect life. Perfect children, perfect everything. The sound of their voices draws me toward the study, where I overhear Father speaking in hushed tones. Lisa, we can't keep doing this. The investments for Emma's house, the private school for the boys, it's stretching us thin. Mark, she needs our support. She's building a life for our grandchildren. But what about... Shh! Someone might hear. I step back, my hand trembling as I set down my glass. The familiar ache in my chest transforms into something darker, heavier. Years of being overlooked, dismissed, and pushed aside crystallize into a single, clarifying moment. My phone buzzes. A text from Nina, my best friend. Happy birthday! Dinner tonight? Before I can reply, Emma's voice rings out. Jade, where are you? We need help with the cake. Of course they do. They always need something from me, but never for me. I watch through the kitchen window as a bird slams into the glass, stunning itself before flying away. Something about its desperate escape attempt resonates deep within me. Coming, I call back, but I remain rooted in place, my mind racing with possibilities. The bird recovers, shakes itself off, and takes flight again, this time with purpose, with direction. I pick up my phone and text Nina back. Yes, we need to talk. I'm done being the family doormat. The sounds of laughter and celebration continue in the dining room, but something has shifted inside me. They don't realize it yet, but this birthday marks more than just another year of my existence. It marks the day I stopped accepting my role as the forgotten Thompson. As I push through the kitchen door, plastering on my usual compliant smile, I'm already plotting. Emma's perfect life is built on cards, and I've just decided to become the wind that brings it all down. Let them eat cake. Soon enough, they'll be choking on it. Nina's apartment feels like sanctuary after the disaster of my birthday dinner. The city lights twinkle beyond her balcony as I cradle a glass of wine, recounting the evening's events. She listens, dark eyes narrowing at each fresh detail. And now this. I slide my phone across the coffee table, showing her the family group chat message that arrived 10 minutes ago. Emma's text glows on the screen. Everyone, Ryan and I have the most wonderful news. Family brunch tomorrow at 11. Don't be late, this is huge. Another performance in the Emma show, Nina mutters, refilling our glasses. You don't have to go. I do, actually, because missing it means 3 weeks of guilt-tripping texts from Mother. The next morning, I arrive at my parents' house exactly 2 minutes late. Emma's already holding court in the living room, Ryan hovering beside her with that anxious look he's been wearing lately. There you are, Emma beams, but her eyes are sharp. We were about to start without you. Mother fusses with the coffee service. Jade, fix your hair. It looks messy. I ignore her, taking a seat as far from Emma as possible. Lucas and Mason tear through the room, screaming at full volume, while Father half-heartedly tells them to settle down. So, Emma stands, commanding attention like she's at a board meeting. As you know, I've been thinking about my priorities lately. After much consideration, I've decided to leave my position at the firm. The coffee cup nearly slips from Mother's hands. But darling, your promotion is wonderful, yes, but there's something even more wonderful. Emma's hand drifts to her stomach. We're expecting again. I want to be a full-time mother to all my children. The room erupts in squeals and congratulations. I watch Ryan's face carefully. There's something tight around his eyes that doesn't match his smile. Of course, we'll need help with the transition, Emma continues. The renovation costs are higher than expected, and with the new baby... Whatever you need, sweetheart, Father says immediately, though I notice his hand tightening on his armrest. I can't help myself. Interesting timing, giving up your salary right after the promotion bonus cleared. The room goes silent. Emma's smile doesn't waver, but her eyes turn to ice. Some of us prioritize family over money, Jade. That's enough, Mother snaps. Jade, why must you always spoil things? I stand up, my coffee untouched. Right, because questioning St. Emma's latest scheme is spoiling things. Never mind that my student loan payment bounced last week because the help you promised never came. Your sister has children to think about, Father says, but he won't meet my eyes. And I'm what? The family ATM? The built-in babysitter? The invisible daughter who exists to prop up Emma's perfect life? Emma steps forward, voice dripping with concern. Oh, Jade, is this about your birthday? I'm so sorry if you felt overlooked. Maybe if you had achieved something worth celebrating. The words hit like a slap. I grab my bag, heading for the door, but Emma's next words freeze me in place. Actually, since you brought up money, Ryan and I could use your help with Lucas and Mason this summer. 3 days a week? We can't afford a nanny with the renovation costs, and you're between real jobs anyway. I turn slowly, taking in the scene. My parents nodding approvingly, Ryan studying the floor, Emma's perfectly practiced expression of sisterly affection. Between real jobs, I repeat. You mean my freelance writing doesn't count as real work? Well, Emma shrugs. It's not exactly stable, is it? This would give you something meaningful to do. I look at each of them, my father avoiding conflict as usual, my mother already planning Emma's baby shower in her head, Ryan's strange nervousness, and Emma's absolute certainty that I'll cave like I always do. No, I say quietly. What? I said no. Find someone else to exploit. As I walk out, I hear Mother calling after me, but I don't stop. In my car, my phone lights up with messages, mostly variations of "How dare you" and "Your sister needs you." But there's also a text from Ryan. We need to talk, privately. I start the engine, a plan forming in my mind. Emma's perfect life is built on secrets, and I'm betting Ryan knows exactly where the cracks are. Time to start pushing. The coffee shop Ryan chose sits in a forgotten strip mall on the edge of town. Perfect for secrets. He's already there when I arrive, hunched over his phone like it might save him. Thanks for meeting me, he says, not quite meeting my eyes. His wedding ring taps a nervous rhythm against his cup. You said it was important. He glances around before sliding a folder across the table. Emma doesn't know I'm here. If she finds out, inside are bank statements, investment reports, and loan documents. My hands start shaking as I read. The numbers don't make sense. Hundreds of thousands missing, high-risk investments, massive withdrawals. She's been using father's power of attorney, I say, the pieces clicking together. The renovation money? Isn't for renovations, Ryan's voice cracks. She's trying to cover my mistakes. I got in deep with some people, gambling. A bitter laugh escapes me. And naturally, Emma's solution was to steal from our parents. Your father's retirement fund is almost gone. His words hit like bullets. The house equity, too. She keeps saying she can fix it, that one big investment will turn everything around. My phone buzzes. Mother, probably with another guilt trip about the brunch disaster. I silence it. Why tell me this? Ryan runs a hand through his hair. Because she's pregnant again and I can't. The people I owe, they're not patient. She thinks throwing more money at it will help. But it's making everything worse. How convenient that she's quitting her job now. No paper trail linking her to the investments when it all falls apart. Jade, please, I know we've treated you. Save it. I gather the documents, my mind racing. Does anyone else know? No, Emma's too proud, and your parents trust her completely. I stand, tucking the folder into my bag. I'll need copies of everything. What are you going to do? The fear in his voice should make me feel something. Pity, maybe, or sympathy. Instead, I feel nothing but cold clarity. That depends on Emma. Later that night, I find her waiting outside my apartment. She's wearing her power suit, her armor for difficult conversations. We need to talk about your attitude, she says, pushing past me into the living room. Mother's upset, father's disappointed. How's the investment portfolio? I interrupt. She freezes for a fraction of a second, so brief anyone else would miss it. But I'm watching for it. I don't know what you mean. Really? Because I have some fascinating documents that suggest otherwise. Father's retirement fund? The house equity? Ring any bells? Her mask slips, revealing something ugly underneath. Ryan told you. He showed me everything. Though I have to admire your efficiency. Stealing from our parents while convincing them to fund your escape plan. That's impressive, even for you. You don't understand? Oh, I understand perfectly. Ryan gambles, you steal, and everyone else pays the price. Tale as old as time. She steps closer, voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. If you breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll destroy you. Everything you're trying to build with your little writing career, gone. Who do you think they'll believe? Perfect Emma or bitter, jealous Jade? You really don't get it, do you? I pull out my phone, showing her the email I'd drafted earlier. To the Financial Crimes Division regarding suspicious activity. One click, Emma. That's all it takes. The color drains from her face. You wouldn't. Try me. I'm done being your safety net. I'm pregnant, she says, like it's a shield. Think about your nephews, your family. You should have thought about them before you stole their future. She grabs her purse, hands shaking. At the door, she turns back. This isn't over. No, I agree, feeling strangely calm. It's just beginning. After she leaves, I pour a glass of wine and open my laptop. The email to the Financial Crimes Division stares back at me, cursor blinking on the send button. Not yet. Emma's right about one thing. This isn't over. I have years of invisible wounds to repay, and I want her to feel every single one. I close the laptop and smile. Let her sweat, wondering when the axe will fall. Sometimes revenge is sweeter when served in small, excruciating portions. The anonymous email takes 3 minutes to compose and 10 seconds to send. By morning, whispers about financial irregularities at Emma's firm have already started circulating. Just a hint. A carefully worded suggestion about improper use of client funds during her tenure. Nothing direct, nothing traceable. I watch the chaos unfold from my laptop screen, tracking the internal memo leaks and worried social media posts from her former colleagues. Emma's phone calls go straight to my voicemail. Nina sets a fresh coffee in front of me. You sure about this? She did it to herself. I close the laptop. I'm just spreading the truth. My phone buzzes. Father. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Have you seen the news? His voice sounds older, strained. They're auditing Emma's department. All her accounts are frozen. That must be stressful. Jade, please. Your mother's beside herself. Emma needs... What about what I need? The words escape before I can stop them. Did anyone care when I lost my apartment deposit because the loan you promised never came? Silence stretches between us. Then, we should discuss this in person. Family dinner tonight. I'm busy. This isn't a request. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone, something cold settling in my stomach. Nina touches my arm. You don't have to go. Yes, I do. I stand, gathering my things. Time to watch the show. The family home looks different now, knowing what I know. Each carefully maintained flower bed, every piece of expensive furniture, all of it built on lies and theft. Emma's car is already in the driveway. Inside, voices carry from the dining room. They can't prove anything, Emma's saying as I enter. She stops mid-sentence, her face hardening. You? Mother rushes to smooth things over. Girls, please, let's just have a nice dinner. Did you send that email? Emma demands, rising from her chair. Are you trying to destroy everything I've built? Everything you've stolen, you mean? Father slams his hand on the table. Enough. Both of you sit down. I remain standing. Why? So we can pretend everything's fine while Emma bleeds you dry? What are you talking about? Mother's voice wavers. Emma laughs, but there's panic in her eyes. She's jealous, Mother. She's always been jealous. Show them the documents, I tell her. Show them what you did with Father's power of attorney. The color drains from Father's face. Emma? I had no choice. She's crying now, perfectly timed tears. Ryan's gambling debts. I was trying to protect the family. By stealing their retirement, I pull out copies of the documents Ryan gave me. By emptying their accounts for your investments? Mother takes the papers with trembling hands. Mark, these numbers. Our savings. I can fix it, Emma insists. I just need time. Time for what? I cut in. To steal more? To run? Or maybe to have another baby and use that as a shield? You bitter little... Emma lunges forward, but Ryan catches her arm. Emma, don't. His voice is quiet. It's over. She whirls on him. You told her? You betrayed me? The room descends into chaos. Mother sobbing, Father demanding explanations, Emma and Ryan arguing. I stand in the middle of it all, watching years of perfect family facade crumble. My phone buzzes again. A text from an unknown number. Interesting timing on that tip about Emma. Want to know what else she's been hiding? I slip out while they're still arguing, the text burning in my pocket like a live coal. The satisfaction I expected feels hollow, replaced by something darker. This isn't just about Emma anymore. Whatever she's involved in, it's bigger than family theft. Outside, the summer air feels thick with possibility. I could stop now, let the audit and family drama take its course. Or I could follow this new thread, see just how deep Emma's deceptions go. I text back one word. Everything. The reply comes instantly. Tomorrow, noon, Central Park bench by the lake. Come alone. I start my car, Emma's screams still echoing from the house. The game has changed. This isn't just revenge anymore. It's excavation, and I'm going to dig until there's nothing left to find. The park bench feels exposed, vulnerable. I check my phone, 11:58. A man in a charcoal suit approaches, his movements precise, deliberate. He sits without looking at me. Miss Thompson, your sister's quite the entrepreneur. Who are you? Someone who's been watching Emma's creative accounting for months. He slides a USB drive between us. Your parents aren't her only victims. I pocket the drive. What do you want? Consider it a mutual interest in justice. Emma's been laundering money through her investment schemes. Your family's savings were just convenient cover. My hands clench. Of course, the perfect daughter's perfect life built on perfect lies. How much? Millions, and not just local money. He stands. Check the drive, but be careful who you tell. Some of her investors aren't as civilized as I am. He disappears into the crowd, leaving me with the weight of his words. At home, the drive reveals a labyrinth of shell companies, offshore accounts, and familiar names, including Ryan's gambling debts to people who don't forgive. My phone rings. Mother. Your father's in the hospital. Her voice breaks. Heart attack, the stress of everything. The drive burns in my laptop like a loaded gun. I'll be there. The hospital corridor stretches endlessly. Emma's there, of course, playing the devoted daughter. Her mascara-stained tears look rehearsed. How dare you show up, she hisses when she spots me. He's my father, too. Not after what you've done. She grabs my arm, pulling me aside. The audit team found irregularities. They're expanding the investigation. Good. You don't understand. There are people involved. Dangerous people. If they think I'm cooperating with authorities, maybe you should have thought about that before involving our family in your criminal enterprise. Her fingers dig deeper. I did it for us. For the family. No. I wrench free. You did it for yourself. Like always. Mother emerges from father's room, eyes red. He's asking for both of you. Father looks small in the hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily. My girls, he whispers. Please, stop this fighting. Emma starts her performance immediately. Daddy, I'm so sorry. I was just trying to... Enough. His voice is weak but firm. The truth. Now. I pull out my phone, showing him the files from the drive. It wasn't just our money, Father. Emma's been laundering funds for criminals. You're lying, Mother gasps. Ask her about the offshore accounts. Ask her what really happened to your retirement fund. Emma's facade cracks. They threatened Ryan, his gambling debts, but they were going to hurt the boys. Father's heart monitor speeds up. Mark, Mother warns. So you sacrificed our family instead? I press. Used Father's power of attorney to clean dirty money? I had no choice. A nurse appears. You need to leave. His blood pressure. Emma shoves past me, fleeing down the corridor. Mother follows, calling her name. I stay, watching Father's monitors normalize. I should have seen it, he murmurs. Should have protected you both better. It's too late for that. My phone buzzes, an unknown number. Decision time, Miss Thompson. The authorities get the evidence tomorrow. Your sister's associates won't be pleased. Father reaches for my hand. Whatever you're planning, Jade. Remember, she's still your sister. I look at him, really look at him, for the first time in years. The strong, intimidating father who always took Emma's side now seems fragile, human. Another victim of Emma's manipulation. She stopped being my sister long ago. Outside the hospital, I call the number back. If I give you everything I have on Emma, what happens to my family? They'll be protected, but your sister, well, both her legitimate and illegitimate associates will want their pound of flesh. I watch Emma through the hospital window, crying in Mother's arms, still the center of attention, still playing the victim. The USB drive weighs heavy in my pocket. Salvation or damnation, depending on how I use it. I'll need guarantees, I tell the voice. Written protection for my parents, Ryan, the kids. And Emma? Through the glass, our eyes meet. For a moment, I see past the perfect facade to the desperate woman beneath. She mouths something. Please. Give me 24 hours, I say, and hang up. The game has changed. This isn't about family anymore. It's about survival. And I'm not sure whose. The family gathering for Father's return from the hospital feels like a powder keg waiting for a spark. Mother's arranged everything perfectly. Food, flowers, the pretense of normalcy. Emma sits beside Father, playing the devoted daughter, while Ryan hovers nervously near the door. I clutch my phone, containing everything needed to destroy Emma's carefully constructed world. The 24 hours are almost up. A toast, Mother announces, raising her glass. To family healing. Emma's eyes meet mine across the table. She knows. She has to know. My phone vibrates. Another message from the mysterious contact. Time's up. Decision? Father sets down his fork. Girls, I've been thinking about everything that's happened. A loud knock interrupts him. 2 men in dark suits enter, followed by the man from the park bench. Ryan goes pale. "Mrs. Brooks," one suit says, "we need to discuss some irregularities in your accounts." Emma stands, hands shaking. "This isn't the time." "Actually," I pull out my phone, "it's exactly the time. Show them, Emma. Show everyone what you've really been doing." "Jade, please." Her voice cracks. "Think about the boys. Like you thought about father when you stole his retirement? Or me when you took my college fund?" The suits move closer. "Mrs. Brooks, we can do this privately, or—" "It wasn't just me." Emma's mask finally shatters. "Ryan's debts, these people were going to hurt us. I had to protect my family. By destroying ours," I project the financial records onto the dining room wall using my phone. "Look, Father, every transaction, every theft, every lie." Mother gasps at the numbers. Father's face goes ashen. "You don't understand," Emma sobs. "They'll kill Ryan. They'll take everything. They already have." I slam my hands on the table. "You took everything from all of us. And for what? To save your perfect life?" The man from the park steps forward. "Actually, Miss Thompson, your sister's crimes go deeper than you know. Show them the last file." My hands shake as I open it. The room goes silent as images appear. Documents showing Emma's connection to international criminal organizations, money laundering schemes far beyond Ryan's gambling debts. "Emma," Mother whispers, "tell me this isn't true." But Emma's already running. Ryan tries to grab her, but she pushes past him, heading for the door. The suits move to follow. "Wait!" I call out, something clicking into place. "The pregnancy, it's not real, is it? Just another manipulation." Emma freezes. Her laugh sounds hollow. "You always were too clever, little sister, but not clever enough to see the whole picture." She pulls out a gun. Everything happens at once. Mother screams. The suits draw weapons. Father clutches his chest. Nobody moves. Emma's voice is eerily calm. "Jade, delete the files, all of them, now." "Or what? You'll shoot me? Your own sister?" "Sister?" She laughs again. "We stopped being sisters the moment you chose revenge over family. Delete them." I look at my phone. Years of evidence, proof of every crime, every manipulation. My chance for justice, for revenge. "Emma, please," Ryan begs. "Think about the boys." "I am thinking about them." She's crying now, mascara running. "Everything I did was for them. And you," she points the gun at me, "you had to ruin it all." I raise my phone. "Last chance, Emma. Surrender, and maybe—" The gunshot is deafening. Pain explodes in my shoulder. Through the chaos, I see Emma running, hear sirens approaching. My phone clatters to the floor, screen cracking. "Jade!" Nina's voice seems far away. When did she arrive? "Stay with me." Mother's crying, father's having another attack, and somewhere in the distance, Emma's escaping with all her secrets. The man from the park kneels beside me. "The files are safe. We'll find her." But as darkness creeps in at the edges of my vision, I realize the truth. In winning my revenge, I've lost everything else. The family I wanted to punish is shattered beyond repair, and the sister I wanted to destroy has become something far worse than I imagined. The last thing I see is my cracked phone screen, still projecting Emma's crimes on the wall, a testament to victory that feels more like defeat. Some victories, I whisper as consciousness fades, cost too much. The sirens grow louder, but Emma's already gone, taking with her any chance of this ending the way I planned. In trying to destroy her perfect life, I've unleashed something far more dangerous than simple revenge. The hospital room feels too small, my bandaged shoulder a constant reminder of Emma's final betrayal. 3 days since the shooting, and still no sign of her, until my phone lights up with a message. "Storage Unit 247, come alone, or Ryan's gambling friends finish what they started." Nina tries to stop me from leaving. "You can't trust her. Let the police handle it. She's still my sister." The words taste bitter, and those men will kill her. The storage facility looms against the sunset, rows of identical metal doors stretching endlessly. Unit 247's padlock hangs open, waiting. Inside, Emma stands beside a stack of boxes, looking smaller than I remember. "You came alone?" I step inside. "Unlike you, I keep my promises." Promises? She laughs, but it sounds wrong. Like promising to protect family? Look how well that turned out. You shot me. You destroyed everything I built. You mean everything you stole? I gestured to my shoulder. Was it worth it? Becoming this? Emma moves closer, something desperate in her eyes. You don't understand. Ryan's debts were just the beginning. These people, they own me now. Every transaction, every investment, it was all them. Then why run? Turn yourself in. Get protection. Protection? She pulls out her phone, showing me a video. Lucas and Mason playing in an unfamiliar room. They took my boys, Jade. Said I had 24 hours to deliver the money or... Her voice breaks. The pieces click together. This meeting isn't about reconciliation. The files you have, the evidence, it's worth millions to the right buyers, enough to save my children. And damn everyone else? I step back. What about father's heart attack? Mother's breakdown? The family you destroyed? I never meant... She stops, head tilting. You hear that? Footsteps outside. Multiple sets. They followed you, Emma whispers. Or you led them here. The door slams shut. Metal groans as something heavy blocks it. Emma's phone rings. A familiar voice fills the small space. Ladies, thank you for making this easy. Where are my children? Emma demands. Safe, for now. But we need those files, Miss Thompson. All of them. Your sister's evidence could cause... complications. I pull out my phone. You want complications? One click sends everything to every law enforcement agency in the country. Then your nephews die first. Emma lunges for my phone. We struggle, crashing into boxes. My shoulder screams in pain. Give it to them, she begs. Please, they're just babies. Stop, I shove her back. Think, if we give them everything, we're both dead. The boys too, they'll never leave witnesses. Something shifts in Emma's expression. For a moment, I see my sister again, not the perfect facade or the desperate criminal, but the girl who once protected me from schoolyard bullies. The ventilation shaft, she whispers. It connects to Unit 245. Smoke starts seeping under the door. They're trying to flush us out. The files, the voice calls. 10 seconds or we do this the hard way. I look at my phone, then at Emma. Do you trust me? Never. She smiles sadly. But I don't have a choice. I hit send, not to the criminals or the police, but to Nina, along with our location and a prearranged signal. Help is coming, but we have to survive long enough. The smoke thickens. Emma boosts me toward the vent as pounding starts on the door. If we get out of this, I grunt, pulling myself up, you're still going to prison. I know. She coughs. But my boys... We'll have one parent who chose them over crime. I reach down. Now climb. We crawl through darkness as the storage unit fills with smoke. Behind us, the door gives way with a crash. They're in the vents, someone shouts. Emma grabs my ankle. Jade, I'm sorry for everything. Save it, we're not dead yet. Sirens wail in the distance. Nina came through. But as gunshots ring out below us, I realize this isn't over. Emma and I may survive this night, but our family will never be the same. Sometimes revenge doesn't end with a bang, but with two sisters crawling through darkness, running from the consequences of their choices. The courthouse steps feel colder than they should in summer. Emma stands before the judge in designer prison orange, her perfect posture finally broken. Mother clutches father's arm in the gallery, while Ryan sits alone, the boys mercifully absent. I touch my healed shoulder as Emma speaks. I accept full responsibility for my actions, she says, but her eyes find mine. The path to hell is paved with desperate choices. The sentence comes down heavy. 15 years. Mother sobs. Father stares straight ahead, aged decades in months. I remain seated as they lead Emma away, her final glance carrying something between hatred and understanding. Outside, Ryan approaches with papers in hand. The boys ask about you. Better than asking about their mother in prison. I take the documents, adoption papers. Emma's giving up custody to protect them from her crimes. They need family, he says quietly. They have you. They need more than a reformed gambling addict. He runs a hand through his graying hair. Emma wants you to be their guardian if anything happens to me. The irony tastes like ash. The sister who shot me now trusts me with her children's future. Nina waits by her car, watching. She's been my shadow through all this, keeping me from drowning in victory's hollow echo. I'll think about it, I tell Ryan. Father catches me before I leave. Was it worth it? Was what worth it? The revenge, destroying your sister, our family. I look at the courthouse where Emma disappeared. She destroyed herself. I just exposed the truth. And now, what's left for any of us? The question follows me home, where Emma's case files still cover my desk. Evidence of her crimes, her lies, her desperate attempt to maintain her perfect life. But beneath them lies something else. Childhood photos I couldn't bring myself to pack away. Two sisters before shadows and resentment grew between them. My phone rings. The prison. Emma, making her one aloud call. I never apologized, she says without greeting. For the shooting, for everything before. Save it. We're past apologies. Maybe, but I need you to know, it wasn't all lies. Not in the beginning. I really thought I could protect everyone. By sacrificing me? By being perfect, strong enough for all of us. She pauses. Ryan showed me the papers. Will you do it? Watch over them? I trace the scar on my shoulder. Why me? Because you're the only one strong enough to tell them the truth when they're ready. About their mother, their father, all of it. The truth? I laugh. Since when do you care about truth? Since I realized lies cost me everything. Her voice catches. They'll need someone who understands that. The line goes dead. I stare at the phone, then at the childhood photos. Two girls smiling, before one became the golden child and the other learned to hate. Nina brings wine later, settling beside me on the balcony. So what now? You won. Emma's in prison. The truth's out. Truth, I murmur. Funny thing about truth, it doesn't fix anything, just leaves wreckage to sort through. And the boys? I think of Lucas and Mason, innocent casualties of adult wars, of Emma's final request, not for forgiveness, but for protection of what matters most. Maybe that's the real revenge, I say finally. Not destroying Emma's perfect life, but building something better from its ruins. Something real. Nina studies me. Sounds less like revenge and more like redemption. Maybe they're the same thing in the end. Below, the city lights flicker like stars, each one a story of triumph or tragedy. Somewhere in that maze of light and shadow, two boys wait to learn who they'll become, their mother's sons or their own men. I pull out my phone and text Ryan. I'll do it. For them, not for her. His reply comes quickly. That's exactly why she chose you. The night air carries a hint of autumn, of change coming whether we're ready or not. I lift my wine glass, toasting the shadows of who we were and the uncertainty of who we'll become. Some victories leave scars deeper than any defeat. But maybe that's how you know they mattered.
The sound of laughter drifts through the open window of my childhood home, a sound I wasn't meant to hear. I freeze on the front path, keys dangling uselessly in my hand. My family's voices float out into the warm evening air. Mother's tinkling laugh, Emily's excited chatter, even Father's deep chuckle. A full family gathering, one I clearly wasn't invited to. I'm Isabel, the forgotten daughter, the invisible sister, the perpetual afterthought. It's perfect timing, really, Emily's voice carries clearly. While Isabel's away at that conference thing, Peter and I could start moving our stuff in. The house is way too big for just her anyway. My house, the one I bought myself after 10 years of research and grant writing, the one they mocked me for purchasing in such an expensive neighborhood. Darling, that's wonderful, Mother exclaims. You two deserve a proper home to start your family in. I step closer to the window, my heart pounding against my ribs. The roses I planted last spring brush against my legs, their thorns catching on my pants. Isabel won't mind, Peter's smooth voice adds. She's always saying how lonely that big place gets. I've never said any such thing to him. In fact, I barely speak to my sister's husband at all. Something about his perfectly practiced charm sets my teeth on edge. We should wait to tell her, though, Emily continues. You know how she gets about her things. So particular. Father's voice rumbles in agreement. Better to present it as a done deal. She'll come around. She always does. My fingers curl into fists, nails biting into my palms. They're right about one thing. I always have come around. Always swallowed my protests, smiled through gritted teeth, given in to keep the peace. 20 years of making myself smaller, quieter, less demanding. 20 years of watching Emily take and take while I fade into the background. To the new homeowners, Mother declares, followed by the clink of glasses. I back away from the window, nearly stumbling over my own feet. My chest feels tight, like all the air has been squeezed out of my lungs. They're in there toasting to the theft of my home. The one thing I've achieved that they couldn't diminish or dismiss. My phone buzzes in my pocket. A text from Emily. Hey sis, can you come over to Mum and Dad's? Family dinner tonight. The casual cruelty of it hits me like a physical blow. They're probably wondering why I'm late, playing at confusion while they plot behind my back. I stare at the message until the screen goes dark, then turn and walk back to my car. For the first time in my life, I don't respond to Emily's text. Don't make excuses. Don't smooth things over. Instead, I drive straight to Aunt Valerie's house on the other side of town. She's been estranged from the family for years. Another strong woman they couldn't control. My hands shake as I ring her doorbell. When she opens the door, her eyes widen at the sight of me. Isabel? What's wrong? I need your help, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. I'm done being the good daughter. She studies my face for a long moment, then steps aside to let me in. It's about time, she says softly. Come in and tell me everything. As I cross her threshold, I feel something shift inside me, like a door closing, or maybe opening. Either way, there's no going back now. They want to take my house. Fine, let them try. But this time, they're going to learn what happens when they push too far. This time, I push back. 3 days after discovering their plan, I sit at my parents' dining table, watching Emily monopolize yet another family dinner. The crystal chandelier catches the evening light, casting fractured shadows across her perfect smile as she details her latest achievement, organizing a charity gala that raised $5,000. The mayor himself called to thank me, she beams, cutting into her roast beef. He says I have a natural talent for bringing people together. Mother practically glows. You've always had such a gift for these things, darling. I take a slow sip of wine, letting the bitter taste linger. Yesterday, my research team secured a $1 million grant for cancer treatment studies. But I know better than to mention it now. Actually, Emily continues, that's partly why Peter and I have been thinking about the future. She shoots me a sideways glance that makes my stomach clench. We need more space for networking, hosting events. Father sets down his fork. Have you found somewhere? We're exploring options. Emily's voice drips with manufactured innocence. Actually, Isabel, your neighborhood would be perfect for us. I carefully place my wine glass on the table. Really, houses there are quite expensive. Oh, we have ways of making it work, Peter chimes in, his smile never reaching his eyes. The market's full of opportunities if you know where to look. Speaking of opportunities, I say, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Did you ever sort out that issue with your investment firm, Peter? The one that made the news last month? The silence that follows is delicious. Peter's smile falters for just a fraction of a second. What issue? Mother asks, looking between us. Just a minor regulatory misunderstanding, Peter recovers smoothly. All resolved now. Isabel must have seen some outdated article. Funny, I continue. Butter wouldn't melt in my mouth, because I could have sworn I saw something about it just yesterday. Isabel, Father cuts in sharply, let's not discuss business at dinner. Emily was telling us about her charity work. Of course she was. Emily was always telling us about something. I watch her shoot Peter a reassuring look, her hand finding his under the table. The diamond on her finger catches the light, probably worth 3 months of his salary, if he actually earned what he claimed. Well, Emily chirps, clearly eager to change the subject, we have more exciting news. We're thinking about starting a family soon. Mother gasps in delight. The crystal glasses practically vibrate with her joy. Oh, darling, that's wonderful. Isn't it? Emily's eyes find mine again, triumphant. We'll need plenty of space for a nursery, of course, and a yard for the children to play in. The implication hangs in the air like smoke. My house has 4 bedrooms, a sprawling backyard, everything a growing family could want. Your sister's house would be perfect, Mother says, as if reading from a script. Isabel, you barely use half those rooms anyway. My fingers tighten around my fork. I use every room in my house, Mother. The 2nd bedroom is my home office, the 3rd is my library, and the 4th. But you're hardly ever there, Emily interrupts, always at the lab, or at those boring conferences. Those boring conferences are where I present my research, I say, my voice taking on an edge. Research that could help save lives. Father waves his hand dismissively. Yes, we know all about your work. But family should come first, Isabel. Your sister needs... What about what I need? The words escape before I can stop them, sharp and clear in the suddenly silent room. 4 pairs of eyes stare at me in shock. I've broken the cardinal rule. I've disrupted the carefully maintained fiction of our perfect family dynamic. I think, I say, standing slowly, I should go. Don't be dramatic, Isabel, Mother starts, but I'm already moving toward the door. Thank you for dinner, I say, my voice perfectly controlled. I'll see myself out. As I walk to my car, I hear the front door open behind me. Izzy, wait, Emily calls out, using my childhood nickname like a weapon. You're being ridiculous. We're family. We're supposed to help each other. I turn to face her, illuminated in the porch light like an angel in a Renaissance painting. For the first time, I see her clearly. Not as my beloved little sister, but as the person she's become. Yes, I say softly, we are family. Remember that when everything falls apart. I leave her standing there, mouth open in surprise. In my rearview mirror, I watch her figure grow smaller, still framed in the doorway like a portrait of innocence about to be shattered. Aunt Valerie's living room feels like a confessional at midnight. Files spread across her coffee table, illuminated by a single lamp, casting long shadows on the walls. She hands me a thick manila envelope, her expression grim. You need to see this, Isabel. Her voice is steady, but her hands shake slightly. I've been tracking Peter's business dealings since he married Emily. What I found, it's worse than we thought. I pull out document after document, bank statements, property records, legal notices. Numbers blur before my eyes until one figure makes me stop breathing. This can't be right. Your parents remortgaged their house 6 months ago, Aunt Valerie confirms. They gave Peter the money for his investment scheme, nearly everything they had. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. That's why they want my house. They're not just helping Emily, they're desperate. Peter's firm is under federal investigation, she continues, sliding another document toward me. These complaints go back 3 years. Ponzi scheme, fraud, embezzlement. My phone buzzes. Another text from Emily. Can we talk? I hate how we left things. I ignore it, focusing on the papers in front of me. Does Emily know? About the investigation? No. About your parents' money? Maybe. But there's more. Aunt Valerie pulls out her laptop, turning it toward me. Look at these property records. My eyes scan the screen, catching on familiar addresses. These are all foreclosures. Houses in my neighborhood. Peter's been buying them through shell companies, flipping them for profit. But look at the sale prices versus the actual market value. The numbers don't add up. Can't add up. Unless a knock at the door makes us both jump. Through the window, I see Emily's car in the driveway. Isabel? Her voice carries through the door. I know you're in there. Your car's outside. Aunt Valerie helps me gather the documents, shoving them into a drawer. When I open the door, Emily bursts in like she owns the place. What are you doing here? She demands, looking between us. With her? Having tea with my aunt, I say smoothly. Is that a crime? Emily's perfect composure cracks slightly. You know mother and father don't approve of... Of what? Aunt Valerie cuts in. Of the only person who told them the truth about their precious son-in-law 3 years ago? Emily's face flushes. That was different. Peter explained everything. Did he explain why our parents had to refinance their house? The words escape before I can stop them. The color drains from Emily's face. How did you... No. I step closer. The same way I know about the federal investigation into Peter's firm. The same way I know about the foreclosure scheme he's running in my neighborhood. You don't understand, Emily whispers. He has a plan. He's going to fix everything. With my house? My laugh sounds hollow even to my own ears. Is that why you're really here? To make sure I don't ruin your husband's latest con? It's not like that. Emily's voice rises, hysteria creeping in. We just need time, a few months in your house while we sort things out. Peter says a lot of things, Aunt Valerie interjects, but the numbers don't lie. Emily's face hardens. You've always been jealous of me, both of you. You can't stand that I'm happy, that I have everything you don't. Everything I don't? I gesture to the room around us. I have a career I built myself, a home I earned. What do you have, Emily? A husband who's about to drag our whole family down with him. You're wrong about him, she says, but her voice wavers. And if you try to interfere, I'll make sure mother and father never speak to you again. I meet her eyes, seeing not my little sister, but a stranger wearing her face. Go ahead, but remember, when everything falls apart, you chose this. She leaves like she arrived, in a whirlwind of self-righteous anger. Through the window, I watch her speed away, probably straight to Peter to warn him. What now? Aunt Valerie asks softly. I pull out my phone, scrolling through contacts until I find the number I need. Now we call Diana Lewis. It's time to get proof they can't ignore. The phone rings 3 times before a crisp voice answers. Lewis Investigations. I need your help, I say, watching Emily's taillights disappear into the night. My family's about to lose everything, and I need to make sure the right people go down for it. Diana Lewis spreads photographs across my kitchen counter, like a dealer laying out cards for a high-stakes game. Each image tells a story. Peter shaking hands with known fraudsters, entering buildings through back doors, passing envelopes in shadowy parking lots. Your brother-in-law's been busy, Diana says, tapping one particular photo. This man here, former SEC investigator turned private consultant. They've met 6 times in the past month. My coffee grows cold beside me as I study the evidence of Peter's double life. And my parents' money? Already gone. Diana's voice is gentle but firm. Transferred through 3 shell companies, then offshore. Classic exit strategy. The doorbell rings, making me jump. Through the peephole, I see Mother standing on my porch, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Isabel, she calls out, please, I need to talk to you. I gesture for Diana to gather the photos, watching her slip them into a folder and disappear into my study. When I open the door, Mother bursts in, her perfectly maintained facade cracking around the edges. Emily told me what happened at Valerie's, she says, pacing my foyer. How could you say such terrible things about Peter? Are they terrible if they're true? She stops, her shoulders stiffening. He explained everything to your father. The investment opportunity was too good to pass up. Was that before or after you remortgaged the house? The color drains from her face. How did you... No? I lean against the wall, watching her. The same way I know about the federal investigation. The same way I know where Dad's retirement fund really went. You don't understand, she whispers, but there's fear in her eyes now. Peter says it's just temporary. Once the market turns... There is no market turn coming, Mother. It's a con. All of it. She shakes her head violently. No, Emily would know. She wouldn't let. Emily sees what she wants to see, just like you and Dad always have. Mother's hand trembles as she reaches for her phone. I should call your father. He'll explain. Actually, I say, moving to block her, I think you should see something first. I lead her to my study where Diana waits with the evidence spread out again. Mother's gasp is audible as she takes in the photos, the documents, the truth she's been avoiding. That's not, she starts, but her voice fails as she picks up a photo of Peter meeting with a known fraud consultant. When was this taken? Last week, Diana answers, 2 days after he convinced your husband to sign over power of attorney. Mother sinks into my desk chair, her carefully constructed world crumbling. What do we do? We can still stop this, I say, gentler now, but you have to trust me, and we have to act fast. Her phone buzzes, Emily's name flashing on the screen. Mother stares at it, then slowly turns it face down. Tell me everything, she whispers. We spend the next hour showing her the evidence, explaining the scheme, watching reality sink in. When Diana leaves, Mother remains at my desk, aged years in minutes. Why didn't you come to me sooner? I ask finally. She looks up, tears in her eyes. Because admitting I was wrong about Peter meant admitting I was wrong about so much else. About Emily, about you. The words I've waited decades to hear, and they taste like ashes. I have to tell your father, she says, standing shakily. And Emily? Oh God, Emily. Let me handle Emily, I say, walking her to the door. But Mother, don't tell Peter you were here. Don't let him suspect anything. She nods, then turns back suddenly. Isabel, I'm sorry, for everything. After she leaves, I stand in my empty foyer, the weight of secrets pressing down like lead. My phone buzzes, a text from Aunt Valerie. Peter just called, wants to meet tomorrow to clear the air. What's your play? I think of the evidence in my study, of Mother's broken expression, of Emily's blind faith in her husband. Of all the years I stayed quiet, played nice, kept the peace. Set up the meeting, I text back. Time to end this. My finger hovers over the send button for just a moment. Once I press it, there's no going back. No more playing the good daughter, the understanding sister. No more peace to keep. I press send. The cafe Peter chose sits at the edge of the financial district, all glass and chrome, and carefully cultivated sophistication. He's already there when I arrive, perfectly pressed suit and practiced smile, rising to greet me like we're old friends. Isabel, he says warmly, thank you for meeting me. Diana's voice echoes in my head. Remember, let him talk. The more comfortable he feels, the more he'll reveal. The wire beneath my blouse feels like it's burning against my skin. Peter, I reply, sliding into the seat across from him. I assume this is about the house. He laughs, all charm and ease. Always straight to the point. That's what I've always admired about you. The waiter appears, and Peter orders expensive coffee for both of us without asking what I want. Just like always. Actually, he continues, I wanted to clear the air. Emily told me about your concerns. Did she tell you everything? His smile flickers for just a moment. She mentioned you've been talking to Valerie, looking into my business dealings. The coffee arrives, and I watch him add exactly 2 sugars to his cup. Such precise movements for a man who's stolen millions. I have to admit, he says, I'm hurt. If you had questions about my investments, you could have come directly to me. Like my parents did. His expression doesn't change, but his knuckles whiten around his cup. Your parents made an informed decision to invest in their future. Our future. As family. Family, I repeat, tasting the bitterness of the word. Is that why you're planning to move into my house? Because we're family? Isabel, he leans forward, voice dropping conspiratorially. I know you think you've uncovered something sinister, but you're only seeing pieces of a much larger picture. Let me explain. My phone buzzes, a text from Diana. FBI moving in on his office now, keep him talking. Actually, I cut him off, I'd love to hear about the larger picture, starting with the offshore accounts. The charm vanishes from his face like a mask being stripped away. Who have you been talking to? Does it matter? The FBI is probably asking the same questions right now. He goes completely still, and for the first time, I see the predator behind the polish. What have you done? What you forced me to do. I pull out my phone, showing him the live news alert about raids at his firm. It's over, Peter. He moves so fast I barely register it, grabbing my wrist across the table, coffee cups clattering. You have no idea what you've started, he hisses, all pretense gone. Your parents will lose everything. Emily, let go of me. My voice carries across the cafe, heads turning. Emily's pregnant. The words hit like a physical blow. You're lying. 2 months along. His grip tightens. Still want to destroy your sister's life? Take everything from your future niece or nephew. For a moment, I waver. Then I remember Mother's broken expression, the years of manipulation, the casual cruelty masked as family loyalty. If Emily's really pregnant, I say quietly, then she deserves to know the truth about her child's father. His phone starts ringing, probably his partner's discovering the raid. In the distance, sirens wail. Last chance, Isabel, he says, voice deadly calm. Walk away now. Let me handle this. Or I promise you, what's left of this family won't survive what comes next. I lean forward, meeting his eyes. You know what your mistake was, Peter. Thinking I still cared about saving this family. I'm not trying to save anything anymore. I'm burning it all down. He releases my wrist, standing so abruptly his chair topples backward. You'll regret this. No, I say, watching him gather his things with shaking hands. I really won't. As he strides out, already barking orders into his phone, I send a quick text to Diana. He's running. Her response is immediate. We've got eyes on him. You okay? I look down at my wrist, already bruising, physical proof of what's been hidden beneath the surface all these years. My phone starts lighting up with messages. Emily, Mother, Father, all demanding explanations. No, I text back to Diana. But I will be. I leave enough cash on the table to cover the untouched coffee and walk out into the sunlight. Behind me, Peter's perfectly ordered world is crumbling. Ahead of me lies the wreckage of everything I once called family. And somewhere in between, I'm finally finding my voice. My parents' living room has become a battlefield. Evidence folders spread across the coffee table like landmines, Diana's photographs scattered like shrapnel, and in the center of it all, my family fracturing before my eyes. This is absurd, Father thunders, throwing down the bank statements. Peter would never... He already has, I cut in, sliding forward another document. Your retirement account, Dad. Check the balance. His hands shake as he reaches for his phone, pulling up his banking app. The color drains from his face. This can't be right. Mother sits silent in her armchair, staring at the photos of Peter with his criminal associates. She hasn't spoken since we started. The front door slams open. Emily storms in, mascara streaked down her face. What have you done? She screams at me. The FBI just arrested Peter. What I had to do, I say, standing to face her. He was stealing from our parents, Emily, from everyone. You're lying. She grabs one of the folders, throwing it across the room. Papers flutter like wounded birds. You've always been jealous, always wanted to ruin my happiness. Emily, Mother finally speaks, her voice barely a whisper. The baby. Emily's hand flies to her stomach protectively. Peter told you. He tried to use it to manipulate me, I say softly, just like he's been manipulating all of us. No. Emily backs away, shaking her head. No, you don't understand. We had plans. The house. Everything was going to be perfect. My house, I remind her, the one you were planning to take while I was away. Because we needed it, she shrieks. Peter said. He promised. Father's phone rings. His lawyer. The conversation is brief, devastating. When he hangs up, he looks aged a decade. The house is gone, he says hollowly. The investments, the savings, everything. Not everything, I say. I've been working with the FBI. There might be a way to recover some. Get out! Emily's voice cuts like glass. Emily, get out! She grabs a photo frame from the mantel. Us as children, smiling, innocent, and hurls it at me. I dodge, and it shatters against the wall. You've destroyed everything. Our family, my marriage, my baby's future. Your baby's future was destroyed the moment Peter decided to commit fraud. I shoot back. I'm trying to save what's left. Save? Mother laughs bitterly. Look around, Isabel. What's left to save? The room falls silent except for Emily's sobs. I look at them, my broken family, the people I thought I was protecting, and see only strangers staring back with hatred in their eyes. My phone buzzes. Diana. Peter's talking, says Emily knew everything. The words blur on the screen as pieces click into place. Emily's desperate defense of Peter, her insistence on taking my house, her perfectly timed pregnancy announcement. You knew, I whisper, looking at my sister. Didn't you? Her tears stop instantly. In that moment, I see Peter's influence in the calculated shift of her expression. Of course I knew, she says coldly. Someone had to fix this family's finances. While you were playing scientist, Peter and I were securing our future. Emily, Mother gasps. What? Emily turns on her. Did you really think your precious charity galas could maintain our lifestyle? At least Peter had vision. Father slumps in his chair, defeated. Mother begins to weep, and I stand in the middle of it all, victory turning to ashes in my mouth. The FBI will want to talk to you too, I tell Emily quietly. She straightens, smoothing her designer dress. Let them. Unlike Peter, I was smart enough not to leave a paper trail. But you left me, I say, and I remember everything. For the first time, fear flickers in her eyes. She grabs her purse, heading for the door. When this is over, she says, don't expect forgiveness. I'm not looking for forgiveness, I reply, just justice. She leaves, taking the last shreds of our sisterhood with her. Mother won't look at me. Father stares blankly at his empty bank statements. My phone buzzes again. Aunt Valerie. You okay? I look around the battlefield of my childhood home, at the wreckage of decades of lies and manipulation, at the cost of truth. I don't respond to the text. There are no words for this kind of victory, this kind of loss. Instead, I gather my evidence and walk out, leaving my family to face the ruins of their carefully constructed facade. Behind me, Mother finally speaks. What have we all become? I close the door on her question, knowing the answer would break whatever's left of her heart. The courthouse corridor feels endless, my heels echoing against marble as I approach the conference room. Through the glass, I see them all waiting. Mother, Father, Emily, and Peter in handcuffs. Diana stands in the corner, while 2 FBI agents flank the table. Peter's lawyer intercepts me before I can enter. Miss Thompson, my client has a proposition. No deals, I say, reaching for the door. He's willing to take full responsibility. Protect Emily completely. The lawyer lowers his voice. Your sister's pregnancy. Surely you don't want your niece or nephew born while their mother's in prison. I pause, hand on the doorknob. Let me guess. In exchange, I drop my testimony about Emily's involvement. He smiles, thinking he's won. I push past him into the room. Emily sits beside Peter, their fingers intertwined despite his cuffs. Mother won't meet my eyes. Father stares at his folded hands. Isabel, Peter starts, all charm even now. Thank you for... Save it. I place a USB drive on the table. You should listen to this first. Diana steps forward, connecting the drive to a laptop. Emily's voice fills the room. Of course I knew about the accounts, Peter. I helped set them up. Isabel's such a fool. She actually thinks you're the mastermind. Peter goes rigid. Emily's grip on his hand loosens. The recording continues. Once she's out of the way at that conference, we'll have everything. Her house, her trust fund share, all of it. She never deserved any of it anyway. "Turn it off," Emily whispers. "Why?" I ask. "Isn't this the vision you were talking about? The future you were securing?" "You recorded me." Emily stands trembling. "Your own sister?" "You were planning to steal everything from me. Your own sister." "Miss Collins," one FBI agent interrupts, "you told us you had no knowledge of your husband's activities." Emily's mask cracks. "I want my lawyer." "Emily," Mother finally speaks. "Tell them they're wrong. Tell them." "They're not wrong," I cut in. "She orchestrated everything. Peter was just the face of the operation. The charming distraction while Emily handled the real work." Peter laughs suddenly, harsh and cold. "Well played, darling," he tells Emily. "I actually believed you were the innocent one." "Shut up," Emily hisses. "Why should I? You've clearly been playing me as much as I played them." He turns to the agents. "I think I'm ready to revise my statement." The room erupts. Emily screaming at Peter, lawyers shouting objections, agents calling for order. Through it all, I stand still, watching my sister's carefully constructed world collapse. "You did this," Emily snarls at me over the chaos. "Destroyed our family because you couldn't stand seeing me happy." "Happy?" I step closer, voice cutting through the noise. "You were happy destroying our parents, happy watching them lose everything while you lined your pockets. They never lost faith in me," she spits. "Never questioned me like they did you, because I earned their love." "Earned it with lies," I say softly. "And now they know the truth." Mother starts crying. Father finally looks up, decades of certainty crumbling in his eyes. "Emily," he whispers, "what have you done?" The fight drains from her suddenly. She sinks back into her chair, looking small and lost, not the golden child anymore, just a scared woman facing consequences for the first time. "I want to make a deal," she says quietly to the agents. Peter lunges across the table, cuffs rattling. "You manipulative little—" The agents restrain him as Emily's lawyer hurries her from the room. Mother follows, still weeping. Father stays seated, looking older than I've ever seen him. "Isabel," he says as I turn to leave, "I'm sorry for not seeing—" "I know," I reply, "but it's too late." Outside the conference room, Diana waits. "You okay?" I watch Emily disappear down the corridor between agents, her designer heels clicking against marble like a final countdown. "They wanted my house," I say, "my life, everything I built, and now—" "Now they lose everything instead," Diana finishes. "No," I correct her, straightening my shoulders. "They lost it all the moment they decided to take what wasn't theirs. I just made sure they couldn't pretend anymore." I walk away from the wreckage of my family's lies, leaving behind the perfect daughter, the golden child, the sister I thought I knew. Ahead lies uncertainty, but at least it's honest. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else's world. Sometimes it's about refusing to let them destroy yours. The nursery mobile spins slowly above an empty crib, casting butterfly shadows on freshly painted walls. Emily's baby shower invitation sits unopened on my desk, forwarded by Mother, who still hopes for reconciliation even after the sentencing. I pack the mobile carefully into its box, a gift purchased in a different life before I knew the truth about my sister, before she chose greed over family. The doorbell rings. Through the peephole, I see Father standing on my porch, looking smaller somehow in his worn jacket. No more tailored suits, since the restitution payments began. "The house is being sold," he says when I open the door. No greeting, no pretense. "Your mother and we can't keep up with the payments anymore." I step aside, letting him in. He pauses in my foyer, eyes catching on the family photos I haven't taken down yet. "Emily's lawyer called. She's asking for character witnesses for her hearing." "And?" I told him no. His voice cracks. I can't lie anymore." The silence stretches between us, heavy with decades of unspoken truths. He moves to my living room window, staring out at the garden I've finally had time to tend. "Your roses are blooming," he says softly. "They do better when no one's trying to take them from me." He flinches, deserved pain. Isabel, don't. I pick up the baby shower invitation. Have you visited her? Once. He turns from the window. She's different in there, smaller, like the Emily we knew was just a costume she wore. Maybe that's who she really is when she can't take things from other people. The invitation crumples in my hand. Father watches, his face lined with fresh grief. We failed you both, he says finally. Gave Emily everything she wanted, taught her she could take whatever she desired. And you, he stops, swallowing hard. We taught you to expect nothing. You taught me to build my own life, I correct him, even if that wasn't your intention. My phone buzzes. A text from Diana. Peter took the expanded plea deal, rolling on everyone. Emily will serve the full term, I tell Father. Peter's testimony ensures that. He nods slowly. Good. The simple word carries the weight of transformation. A father choosing justice over protection, truth over comfort. We're moving in with Valerie, he says suddenly. Your mother and I. She offered, after everything. A laugh escapes me, sharp and surprised. The sister you shunned for 20 years, taking in the family that cast her out. Life has a way of burning down what we thought we knew. He moves toward the door, then stops. Your mother wants to know. Will you come for Sunday dinner? At Valerie's? I think of all the Sunday dinners where I sat silent, watching Emily shine, of mother's dismissals and father's blind spots, of the family we were, and the broken pieces we've become. I'll think about it. He accepts this with a nod, understanding it's more than he deserves. At the door, he turns one last time. The roses really are beautiful, Isabel. I'm sorry I never noticed before. After he leaves, I carry the mobile to my car. The women's shelter downtown always needs donations, and somewhere, a baby who isn't born from lies might enjoy watching butterflies dance. My phone buzzes again. Aunt Valerie, you okay? I look at my house, truly mine now, no threat of theft or invasion, at my garden, blooming wild and free, at the life I've built, stronger for having been defended. Yes, I text back. Then, after a moment, save me a seat for Sunday dinner. Her response is immediate. Always had one for you, just waiting for you to claim it. I drive away from my house, the mobile box secure beside me. Ahead lies a future I never expected. Sunday dinners with Aunt Valerie, parents learning humility, a sister serving time for her crimes. Not revenge exactly, not forgiveness either. Something in between, where truth lives, where butterflies cast shadows on empty cribs, and roses bloom fiercer for having been protected, where family isn't what you're given, but what you choose to build from the ashes of what burns away.